An error occurred with Twitter. Okay. Yes, go live. That's weird. I've never had that happen before. So, okay,
Put it on
good.
Twitter.
Yeah. And then live on the Rockfin. Good. That popped right up. All right. We are live. So, as you guys can see, got a very special guest with me, the man, the myth, the host of What is Truth podcast. Brother I just met recently, which I had such a great time being on his show, and look forward to us doing a lot more collaborations. Wheezy, what's up, brother?
What's good, my man?
Oh, nothing much. Um, I don't know. As you see, I'm kind of doing double duty today. I had the Dr. Shiva interview earlier, and so back now for the regular show. Shout out
Yeah,
to
did you
everybody in the chat.
reschedule that?
Oh, that got rescheduled a couple of times actually.
Uh, yeah, because I
That got
remember you mentioned it, and then I
yeah,
saw it up today. I was like, oh, snakes.
yeah,
Good stuff.
that got rescheduled like a couple of months back. I was just glad that I was able because I know like Dr. Shiva kind of he answers some of his questions kind of a little open ended, and so he's going to answer your question. He's going to give you full solid answers versus a lot of politicians. But I just know that on certain things, he likes to really expound. And if you only have him for an hour, the downside to that is you don't get to hit necessarily everything you wanted to. And surprisingly, I was able to get most of the points I wanted to talk to him on. So that was good. And yep, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I thought you did a excellent job. I mean, because I've listened to a few of his shows, and he can talk, man. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the fact that you were able to get what you wanted answered, and in the way you handled it, I thought you did a great job, man.
Oh, thank you. Um, it was some points where I know other people they might have done some pushing back more, but I've kind of just decided that of a lot of interviews I've watched, I guess probably over the last year or so. I think I get more out of it when they kind of just let certain things go and then let the crowd be able to kind of judge it on their own. Because sometimes if you jump in so quick on everything, you don't get to hear what they were going to say on other things. And there's plenty of interviews I was watched where I'm like, damn, where was he going to go with that? Like, so, I mean, I try to leave it open a little bit more and let the guests do the talking instead of it being more of an inquisition like some people like to do. But I don't know. I'm still growing.
No, that's the thing. I think the more time you do it, you start to hone down on these skills. I know when I first started, that was one of the biggest critiques I'd get is that, God damn, let your guests talk. You interrupt too much.
Hmm.
And when I was talking to the people, I didn't realize it. And then I'd go back and listen to them like, damn, all right. I I got it. It pissed me off at first, but I learned from it. And you get
Hmm.
better as time goes on. And I mean, the whole thing about pushing back, sometimes I get that itch, but I think it is best to just let it go. Like, there's certain things that I might have a slightly different view or whatever. I remember that the vast majority of my audience already knows how I feel about things or most things. So I don't have to reiterate my stance. They already know where I stand. Um, the only time I may push back a little bit is when um I don't know, like I guess a couple of weeks ago I had a astrophysicist, Jared White, on
Hmm.
debunking the moon landings, and I think the moon landings was the only conspiracy based on his YouTube channel.
Uh
He
huh.
he That's like the only conspiracy he believes in. And so
Really?
yeah, I before that interview I was like, shit, should I bring up some other stuff and maybe push back a little bit? And the more I thought about it, and when the day came, I was like, I'm not gonna. hit him too much, man. I mean, I'm inviting him on. He's got to give his spiel, and then if we just focus on that, I think it's more of a fruitful dialogue. I
Mhm.
did push back a little bit, like challenging, uh, even space travel. He
Mhm.
believes space travel is feasible. It's just that humans haven't, made it up there. And I'm like, well, I'm not even sure about if we can get into space. So
Yeah. I
it's
and you
just a
know
little
what?
bit, man.
No, I actually want to dig into that a little bit. We've got plenty of time, and I always kind of have my shows a little bit of free flowing. So we're gonna hit the topics when we get to them, but that is something that I want to see. Marcus, the Shiva interview is doing great numbers. Oh, okay, cool. Thanks, Hamza. And shout out to Hamza. Hamza was the one who kind of put the bug in my ear first to even have Dr. Shiva on, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'll ask, and then I reviewed a video that he did and some stuff that he was saying, and just randomly in a chat, I was like, or a post, I was like, if I'm voting for somebody, and you guys know how I feel about electoral politics, I would probably rock more with Dr. Shiva, and he responded to my tweet or my whatever post, and I was like, okay, well, and then I hit him up through the DM, and it went from there. So shout out to Hamza for that. Thanks. Um,
Oh, look at Steve. Steve in the Rockfin chat.
Hell yeah, I'm about to do that.
My man.
I'm gonna send Steve a link right
Stinky
now,
Steve.
so my boy can hop on here. I gotta
Yeah.
get another day off so I can go hop on the AM wake up. I do love those guys over there.
Yeah,
Let's
Steve's
see.
cool, man. Yeah, it's interesting times for sure that we're going through with all the chaos, but I'm
Yeah,
like
and
you. I like to deviate. I don't like the conversation we had, like as far as my podcast downloads, it did
mhm.
really, really great, man. People really enjoyed it. Uh, Even in my other platforms, it did real good. So people really, and that was a conversation where even you and I didn't see eye to eye on every damn thing, but I think there's a difference between pushing back and getting argumentative and just having like a constructive back and forth. Well, this is how I see it, and
Y-
this is how I see it, and
Yeah,
people on both ends can learn.
but I would say, even though we have our points where we disagree on, I think that we do a pretty decent job of listening to each other's perspectives, and it not being a diss on each other, and just having like a very positive build. And I always love those kind of conversations. When I can talk to somebody where there's a difference of agreement on something, and we're able to not be like, "Oh, you're an idiot, you're stupid," you're no. And so it's too much of that these days, and I feel like the only way you can actually get anywhere and understand things is if you talk to people of all different walks of life and different perspectives, and that's how you find the common ground, because there's a whole lot more that most people agree on than disagree, and I just think it's not focused on nearly enough.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm originally from the West Coast, and I've been in Florida since 2015. And when I first moved out here, I was like, man, I'm moving to the South. And being from the West Coast, the things I heard about the South was a lot of racist rednecks and you got to watch out and this and that. And I live in a very, let's see, for lack of a better term, a very Trump tard county
Wait
in
a minute,
Florida,
what part of Florida are you in again?
Sarasota.
Oh, okay, 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 okay.
And uh, I didn't know how it was going to be out here. And that has helped me change my views on things, that not the whole myth that if you go to the South, you're going to get lynched and it's going to be all this and that. I mean, yeah, there's racist folks out here, but there was racist folks out West.
True.
But that isn't it isn't. It's changed my mind growing up as a super lefty, where that was the main focus. Like, oh man, all this racism. Yeah, it exists, but it's not the 1950s anymore, man.
I would
And
say
people forget.
I would say that Sarasota is a little different than like parts of Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi, though, or even
I'm sure.
Louisiana.
Yeah, I'm sure Mississippi. But you gotta remember out here, bro. Like one of the trippiest things coming out, moving from out west, when I was cruising around and I'd see homeboys with a Confederate flag on proudly on their house or on their cars everywhere. And I'm like,
Hmm.
holy shit, if these dudes was doing this out west, they'd be getting an ass kicking. But
Yeah.
out here, it was like a culture shock thing.
Hmm.
But then in now that I've been here, a few years, I'm like, yeah, there folks are a little different, but and maybe some of the stuff I may consider a little ignorant in the way they express themselves and say things, but it it's not that racism that you hear on TV. Or it's different, man. It's different. It's
Yeah.
it's like I said, it's just changed my whole view on it. From what I had I had thought, and then now that I'm out here living it, it's like, all right, it's not nowhere
Yeah.
near as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah. I mean, I lived in in Duval County in Jacksonville for off and on about 12 years, and so I mean, trust me, I still get the itch to want to move back there now. Are there things that didn't love about it? Of course, but of all the places I've been, there's no place I've been to where I don't have my beefs with there. Every place has its pros and cons. I'd say.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Natural
cats.
disasters,
mm,
economies, everything,
Although
weather.
I could deal with hurricanes better than I can, earthquakes. Earthquakes freak me the hell out.
Yeah, that's
Steve,
What
Steve
up? How's it going
in the
there, bro?
house.
it's
What's
it's
up?
He
good
is
to see
the
you, brother.
host of AM Wake Up.
It's cool to see you two hanging out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hey, you're the one that matched us up. You were
Mhm.
our human Tinder.
It's freaky how often I wind up doing that.
Hmm.
I'm not even kidding. Like the first time that Richard Grove and Whitney Webb met was on AM Wake Up. The first time that Monica Perez and Ia Davis did a show together was on our show. The first time Rich met Tessa, I think was
Hmm.
that was yeah. It's
Well, the
a
same with
whole.
Tease.
Oh yeah,
Me
yeah.
meeting Tease also, and
Hell yeah.
so
Hell yeah. And
and
then
then Steve and
I
I.
mean fucking Chris and Tripoli. Just
yeah.
the other day, now they get along swimmingly. Who knew? Who
Yeah.
knew?
Then Steve and I were playing footsie in Union of the Unwanted.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's how we met.
That
No, it's
shows
it's
how
cool to
unwanted I
network,
am.
man.
I still ain't been invited.
I've been there
I'm
a few
joking.
times. I was getting invited more in the early days when it was still growing. Now that it's too damn big,
I got grandfathered in, and I won't go away. Yeah.
yeah,
No, dude, it's why. Yeah, yeah. Eventually.
that's all it is. Though a lot of this is networking um,
Hmm.
with like-minded folk, and that's that's been one of the beautiful things is that there could be other situations where people view each other as competition and stuff like that. And over here, it's like we're trying to help each other out. We invite each other's onto each other's shows, and that helps. That's a mutual symbiotic relationship. Whereas in other situations, any stuff that we're doing could be considered competition. Oh man, I better shut this down. I better not talk about this person. I want all the attention to me. And we don't see that with us. I mean, that's I think it's exquisite.
Well, man, I know I'm pretty aware of like my lane. right? I'm pretty aware of what my show does, and what we all do when we get together there. And I know that there are a ton of other people that approach it way differently. Some people will just sit there and like hammer home on like just a couple of subjects, like Ryan Christian.
Mhm.
For like he'll spend 2-3 hours on one subject. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then do the exact same thing all over again the next day. And it's like, dude, I please go watch that, because I can't do that.
Mhm.
I'm never gonna be able to do that show. And dude, the dedication, the amount of freaking off camera research that guy does just to get that shit together, like
Mhm.
it's so I'll talk him up all day, every day, just so that the people watching don't ever expect that kind of shit from me. I ain't
Yeah.
gonna do it.
What's your guys' record for longest streams?
Let's see. I'm where like I had to sit in a chair continuously.
Uh-huh.
Um, let's see. There were some Assange things that went really, really long. Um, yeah, I don't know. There were a couple of 12-hour days there, but like
Oh shit. Okay.
that's
Ooh.
yeah, I've never done anything like I'm just gonna go on air and I'm not gonna fucking get off until fucking 48 hours. No, but
that's
there,
pr- that's that's yeah, that's longer than what I did. I did an 11.5 hour one.
Jesus
So
Christ,
you
man,
got me
yeah.
beat.
There were some days when it was we were covering Julian Assange's trial live, um, which was taking place in England. So I from like midnight to about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning when I had to go to work, I would do that, and then I would come home from work and I would get basically right back on camera for another 4 or 5 hours because I had a couple other shows to do in the evening. And that happened for, geez, like 3 weeks straight,
Mm.
something like that,
Damn.
where I was doing like basically like 9 to 10 hours on camera, or a little bit more every day, plus working 7.5 hours doing carpentry.
Yeah, you guys got me beat, definitely. I mean,
That was
probably
fun.
in one stream, the longest I've probably done is about 8 hours, but I've had a day or so where I've streamed for for a long time and then did interviews also. So it was like 4 hours straight, then hop off another 3 hours, then hop off, then another 3 hours, and then hopped off and did like another hour. And so it
Just the other
total up to
week,
like
man.
10, 12.
Just the other week when we did the fight, Wheezy. I had done Billy Ray's show for like an hour and a half. Then I did like whatever 2.5 or 3 hours of fight stuff. Then I went over to Weaving Spiders Welcome and did like 2 hours on that show. And by the time that was my day off, I felt like a moron Sunday morning.
Yeah, I think you got off, and then Corey lasted a little bit longer, and then since Chris came in late, he was he was fired up, and I think we ended up doing 4.5 hours that day.
And shout out to Uncle Warren also out there.
What's up,
And
Uncle Warren?
Hell
Gregory.
yeah.
Gregory.
Uncle
I see
Warren's
him in
done some marathon streams in his own right, man.
yes, he
There you
has.
go.
So we got some interesting topics, and with the gentleman I got here, this is gonna be fun. Well, definitely, I brought up Bibi, and of course, I just figure anything Israel Palestine, it's just easier to just title it Bibi because there's so many different avenues to travel down on that topic. Um, the comical GOP debate. Um, figure we'd talk a little about that. Special guests, as you can see, we got two of them right now. two gentlemen I like to call friends. And we might be seeing Sebs and Ali joining later on too. So, but what I left off of the screen, I guess we can start with that one first. Oh yeah, something interesting. Did you know Terrence Howard is suing CAA?
Really?
Yes.
What for?
That the way they did his he's suing them for fraud actually, for the way that they are structuring his contract. That he found out that they have been working more for the studios than for him.
Gosh.
What a shocker.
Who knew?
Who would have knew? I was like, that's kind of funny.
That is interesting.
And then there's some other stuff that I've been looking at with what is it? There's a bunch of weird AI laws and stuff going on in the EU right now that I'm like, I've been just kind of reading it and wait till I go more into it before I decide to tap in. I don't know if you've been noticing any of that, Steve and Wheezy.
There's a fair amount of weird AI stuff going on in general. We look into that fairly often. Yeah, dude. Amazon's AI is like hallucinating so much that they might have to put it in timeout for a little bit. That's something that's going on. We were talking the other week about a whole shake-up at OpenAI, ChatGPT, with Altman, and now how people feel like, oh, well, the bloodthirsty capitalists are definitely in control of AI, and he apparently walks around with that little blue backpack that's the AI kill switch, whatever. Yeah, that guy's weird.
Very weird.
Young global shaper or whatever.
You guys see that article of
yeah, go ahead.
AI? We were talking about the moon landings a little bit. I guess there was an article that was talking about the AI looking at the photos, saying that they looked fake. AI,
really?
Yeah, I get the Russian government. The Russian government into Google's own AI. It wasn't even like it was like the Yandex AI or what the fuck ever. You know, they fed it into a Western or organized freaking AI. They showed it the moon landing video, and the fucking AI was like, "Oh yeah, no, that's faker than a set of tits in Phoenix." I don't even.
Well, even the article wrote that readers should be aware that AI has been known to make mistakes. Like they're trying to backpedal for the AI findings. Yeah, I thought it was a rather interesting article. And there's also like a little thing going on that I've noticed, especially with podcasts, where they're debating with AI. I was listening to one show. I can't remember where it was on, but this guy was trying to talk about near life death experiences or something like that. And AI was saying, oh, that's pseudoscience, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, well, he started making his points. Well, you're kind of being closed-minded, and here's some peer-reviewed papers you can look into. And AI is like, oh, I'm sorry, but this and that. And it was pretty interesting to listen, a human debating a AI machine, but that's starting to be a thing. I don't know if you guys have caught any of those.
I saw the one that Owen Benjamin posted where he was arguing with it about crematoriums and stuff like that.
Owen's a funny guy. Some of the points he makes are real good, and then other times I find him being a hypocrite.
Yeah. Well,
one of my favorite ones is where he'll be like if he's talking about Native Americans losing the land, he's like, yeah, they should have fought harder. They're playing the victim mentality, blah, blah, blah. And then a few minutes later, he's crying that, well, the reason I'm racist is because some black kid stole my bike. So he's like doing the same shit that he's crying about. So, but
And the
You
crazy
shouldn't have been. You shouldn't have been riding around with his cousin's bike, dude. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, man. What fuck neighborhood you come from, Arlene?
and the crazy part about it, when people say that like the Native Americans should have fought harder, I'm like, you do realize a lot of the Native Americans died to disease, right? So it has really not very much to do with fighting there.
it's just simple shit, man. A lot of times with a lot of these topics, the lack of nuance is a big thing. It's just like a general blanket statement, and that get up by your bootstraps, and that solves everything. Just generalized shit without looking into things a lot deeper.
Well,
that's-
if it's your job to point out the inherent flaws and contradictions of hot take outrage culture, you have to do hot takes in an outraged fashion. Otherwise, how are people gonna know? Right?
I mean, good point. I mean, good observation. It's kind of like what I've noticed with Charleston White. If you guys are familiar with Charleston White,
Got a motherfucker.
the king of hot takes, the king of hot takes.
Watching him wreck Cam Newton's whole future was just fucking hysterical, bro.
Mhm.
Oh, that was fun. God, Cam Newton looked very, very nervous.
Yeah.
The more that Charleston was talking, the more Cam was like, "Oh, there goes that sponsor. Oh man, there goes that sponsor. Oh shit. Oh, I haven't even paid for this suit yet. Fuck. Yeah, dude, it was hectic."
What's the reverse cha-ching sound effect?
The sound of money rapidly fucking flying out of your wallet.
Disappearing.
Right?
John says Charleston is Moxie approved, which I like Moxie too. I like them both. You get but I don't feel sorry for Cam because he should have knew better. You got Charleston, you know who you're dealing with.
I want to see a drink champs. I want to see a drink champs with Charleston. I want to see it with him, Ye, Eddie Griffin, and fucking Professor Griff.
You already know what's gonna happen after that one. A drink champs is over. It's gonna be drink champs coming to you live from Beijing,
from Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, you cannot put them together on that. Especially Professor Griff.
I hit him up so many times. I was like, "Come on, dude, come on the show." I promise, I'm not the devil. I promise.
And he wouldn't come on?
No.
Oh no, I've been wanting to give it a try because I know he leaves his phone number out. He's like, "Yeah, just call me."
Yeah, he'll do your show. He'll do your show.
I'll see.
Look, man, that's a racist motherfucker, but he's hysterical. And I'm not even gonna say that like half his points are wrong or any of that shit. He's pretty comfortable in his racism. And, all right.
It kind of reminds me of like when Pasta was telling me he tried to get Rizza Islam, and I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. That's not happening.
Hamza thought that he'd bite because we have the same beard, but he wasn't for it, man. He wasn't.
Nah. You got a Nation of Islam is nah.
Because dude, the fucking NOI dudes fuck with the show though. There's fucking NOI dudes that watch the show because we've never ran them down. We've never said fucking anything untoward, out of pocket, or untrue about Minister Farrakhan or Minister Malcolm or any of those people. We've more than entertained a number of the same different like people and ideas and shit. Like we had the call-in show. There were a couple of NOI cats that would call in just about every week.
But it's another thing being on camera on the live.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I just fucking whatever, dude.
Oh shoot, Mr. Lawson is in the building. What's up, Side Law? Oh man. What else? Well, on my other channel, I got a couple of NOI brothers who they're probably gonna come on the show eventually on Hebrew apologetics. But like, oh, speaking of that, I did a video about AI pastors. Yes, that is a thing.
We played a couple of clips of that on the morning show fucking over the summer, I think. Man, that shit's wild.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite pastor of all time is that crip walking dude.
Oh, he's great.
Oh, Reverend X. Reverend X. I follow him on Instagram.
He's old as hell now because that video
that
went viral was like what, 20 years old, 25 years old?
Easily. I mean,
Man.
he's still I don't know, he seems a little off right now. He's a little off right now. He's like, I come in the name of fucking Jesus Christ. Who the fuck you come in?
That's my favorite pastor of all time right there.
Oh, that would be good, Hamza. I would like to see him go on Jesse Lee's show.
Oh yeah,
that would be entertaining.
That would be entertaining.
But let's see.
Where to go? Hang on. Let's stay on church for a second. I got something for you.
Oh, okay. go ahead. Because
let me find it.
And in that one with the AI thing, I also covered how the CCP is changing the Bible in China.
Oh yeah.
They're changing the 10 Commandments to quotes from Xi Jinping.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like,
okay.
What? I don't think people really know that this kind of shit's going on. And so at the same time that's going on, and then there's more they're actually like using a lot of AI pastors to what is it? They're using them to do like eulogies and stuff. And doing what is it? What's the Buddhist quotes?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember
Drop
this.
It low.
I remember.
All right, you guys, here we go.
Drop it low for Jesus.
What the hell?
Keep the Lord in mind. When you dirty wine, drop it for Jesus. In the club, shake it to the floor and showing love. I'm on the grind, 'cause for my sins he died. Died. 'Cause I know I'll be at the pearly gates for show. I'll be in the number when the trumpet starts to blow. But tonight I gotta drop it low. Drop it low.
Damn, that shit is fire, bro. I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty fire.
Do you remember the video? I don't know, Weezy, you probably never seen this. But you know, that reminded me of something.
Booty claps for Jesus.
I gotta
clap it for Christ, son.
Clap
Do that.
I gotta hold on, pause that, and let me add this because I don't know if you know about this. I did this video a little while back. Oh man, I've shared it on the show before. So for those who watch the show, y'all know about this. Let's see. Let me skip it ahead.
A dialect, the ancient language of Cain. Crimes committed against us, full of anguish and heinous. Christ coming back to give a crown. I'm anxious to gain it.
Throwing a fucking Why are you trying to start a riot?
To every man, woman, and heathen child. Body blows on the rocky road. Everybody knows. Trying to copy those Anunnaki flows. 500 degrees, no
Joe Biden.
fire, I cannot be froze. You must be sniffing the same shit Whitney used to put up Bobby's nose. Despicable rappers I detect. I'm sick of this singing like Key Sweat. I play a CD and hit eject because you wasn't bringing no preset.
Wait till you see this Jamaican guy. Hilarious.
We are not the same. I've been doing this before your potty train. Fop, 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 fop. That's the posse name. Sakari, silverback, gorillas, we cannot be tamed. Giving you Howard a compliment as common since he is the.
If he starts busting out into the full Carlton, I'm gonna lose it.
Yeah, he was turned up for church that day. Oh man, all that just to put the offering in.
Holy shit! He got some airtime. You ever see the remix with the Street Fighter 2?
I don't think so.
That one's great.
Now wait for this next one. This because what you just showed me, it reminded me of this part of the video.
Absolutely, I'm going to church there.
Oh yeah, that's just how they started it off.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay, this is what y'all doing over there. Like, I want to go to church in Africa now.
Right.
And then, hold on, where the deacons at?
Booty claps for Jesus.
Yes. I was like, yeah,
right.
You don't know about that church.
Oh man, I'm all up in there.
And then let's finish it off with this. In front of the kids, by the way.
What is going on? What is this? Strip teases for Jesus?
Strip teases for Jesus, apparently. You hear it in the background what they're playing? Hallelujah.
That was messed up, man.
Yeah, I was like,
for kids, come on now.
I just, y'all know, it reminded me of that song you played. It just reminded me.
No, I got you. I'm just saying, like the parents,
that's beautiful.
Their kids.
That's beautiful.
I just had to share. Oh boy, what you got there, Weezy? Oh yeah, let's go. Oh, you can.
USA. Round one. Fight. Sonic boom. Sonic boom. Sonic boom. Sonic boom. Sonic boom. You win. Brazil. Round one. Fight. Round two. Fight.
What the fuck?
You lose.
Yeah.
Japan.
Why did he come at him with the
Round 1. Fight. You win.
All right.
Stupid.
USA. Round 1. Fight.
No,
Everyone.
no, he knocked everybody out.
What is this?
I want that jacket.
Perfect. You win.
That is a tactical jacket.
India.
I think that was the best one.
Round 1. Fight.
Uh-oh.
Yoga. 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 USSR.
All right, that's enough. My bad.
That's good shit.
Oh, that was
Oh
good.
wow, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, we gotta have some fun. Gotta have some fun.
God
Oh wow,
damn, bro. I haven't seen
I'm
that
through.
in years, man.
Wow.
The Benny Hill
Yeah,
was on fire though, man. He slayed the entire stadium.
and our did you see when his we covered it on Hebrew Apologetics when his son came out and was like, yeah, my father was a complete fraud and blah 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 blah, and we
Oh.
talked in behind the back. We coordinated this and that, and we were making this amount of money, and oh yeah, he just completely dropped all kind of dimes.
Damn, I didn't know that about Benny Hill because my parents used to watch that stuff when I was a kid. There was another guy, I can't remember his name, but he was found out to be a fraud because people would go to stadiums and shit, and he said he would heal. He through Jesus, he would heal people that were paralyzed and walking, and he had a little earpiece. And the people backstage were like, "Hey, go talk to the lady in this dress," and so they had already their quote unquote crisis actors on who was going to be healed that day and shit like that, and it was a giant grift, man.
Wow.
And it's too bad because a lot of people got good intentions, man, and then they fall for this crap.
Damn, Chris H said he went to Benny Hinn Stadium once. Wow.
Did he get a ducat?
Right? Right?
Wow. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and that's the reason why so many people do not trust anything having to do with any kind of church. And honestly, I stayed. I mean, if you read the book, it tells you to stay the heck out of buildings anyway. So
Right?
and to watch out for these, false leaders. But always got to laugh at the people who still are caught up in the BS.
Oh man,
Especially ones like that.
There's still people that give Joel Osteen money.
Yeah.
That Joel Osteen. Remember when Hurricane, what was it? Katrina, wasn't it?
No.
No,
But
no,
it was the one in
was a-
Texas. Leveled fucking Houston.
I can't remember which one, but people were trying to go to his freaking lavish mansion, and he was like, "No."
They were trying to go to the church.
No, they're trying to go to the church.
They
He
were
wouldn't even let
trying
him
to
in the
go to
church.
the fucking mega church, and he's like, "Bitch, this is a tax shelter, not a people shelter. Get the fuck out."
Yeah.
But we funded it. Who
And-
cares?
And did you hear about like around that time also a little bit after it, some of the water damage to the church, they found all kind of money stuffed in the walls.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
He said
So
that a whole bunch of money
literally-
got stolen, and then during the water damage, then all this money got found in the walls, which he claimed, as a tax write-off.
They allude to that a little bit. There's like a something similar that happens in the Righteous Gemstones.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
yeah, that was a great series.
I don't know why they had to end it. I don't know if it is ended.
I hope
It
it
might
is,
not be.
because then you don't have to make it suck for the last couple of seasons, because you fucking wrote yourself into some ridiculous corner that you can only like wreck the show to get out of.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's done on their accord and it's not doing it for the profit, because shows can continue on. I mean, if you just take the time and work with them, you don't have to, speed through the seasons or do like Lost did, and try to string it.
Dude, the one show that they managed to not totally fucking drive all the way into the ground by stringing it out way too long was Cheers.
You could say that for MASH too.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, that's like it though. You only get like, maybe there might be one show every decade that you're able to get some longevity out of.
Did you hear anything about somebody, speaking of extending longevity? Did you hear anything about Zelensky possibly becoming an American citizen?
What?
I heard a little bit of something about that. I was just joking when I went on Twitter, because they were like, "Oh, he's ducking. He's not going to show up to a security brief." And I'm like, "Yeah, you probably wouldn't either if you were busy stuffing fucking duffel bags full of cash and cocaine to hop a plane to your wife's house in Miami."
Mm-hmm.
Lo and behold, that kind of seems like that's what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
Move over, Newsom. We've got a new sheriff in town. His name is Zelensky.
And that's the crazy part. The documents and stuff that were produced by this supposed, Secret Service agent. It does show. Was it Miami? I mean, not Miami. What is it? Kind of. What was it? Vero Beach. That's what it was.
Vero Beach.
Yeah.
And I heard, what was it? Larry Johnson. He was like, "Well, that doesn't make much sense because I mean, it's kind of weird. He could just go across to Tampa." I'm like, instead of going across for the paperwork being done in Tampa, he was like, "Oh, he could have went to Miami or Jacksonville." I'm like, what's the difference? They're about the same damn distance from Jacksonville to, him going all the way over to Tampa. So it really doesn't matter. It's not like it's far to get across Florida. And Miami would be even further away. So that didn't really make much sense.
Oh, he'll be going up in a fucking helicopter or a little fucking, Tiny Lear or something like that if he leaves his compound.
Well, they say he might come. They said he might go to California also.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, we need competition with our cocaine dealers out here.
Yeah, and there already is a Ukrainian population out here, so I mean, he'd still be able to get all the vittles and tastes of home out here.
Right. Tracksuits, fucking rooms that are inexplicably lit in blue light all the time. Fucking weirdos.
That's the fascinating thing with this whole Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Palestine. A lot of the people that were like, "No, we can't fund Ukraine. That's bullshit," are now like, "Where do I sign up for Israel, folks?" Like how quickly people flip flop, man. It's batshit Looney Tunes, man.
Oh, well, Ukraine was Joe Biden's war anyway, and Israel is all of the U.S. Congress's war.
Yeah. Well, and plus another thing, they got to the point where, all right, we're running low on Ukrainians to throw into the grinder. So now's a good time to kind of just Homer Simpson back into the hedges on Ukraine. So that's kind of more. I mean, the average age of a Ukrainian soldier is like 43. I mean, like literally pregnant women are getting caught now out on the battlefield. I mean, it's pretty desperate. And you also have Ukrainians who are reportedly keeping pictures of Zelensky up for target practice. So when your own soldiers, it's getting towards mutiny level in a minute.
I mean, that's what happened in Vietnam, dude. It really wasn't until there was infantry fragging officers then saying no, we're not going to go take that hill again today.
Yep.
That was dumb. Last time we lost 75 people in an hour. That was retarded. But no. Oh, well, then we're going to shoot you. And then they were like, okay, well, that's a lot of friendly fire incidents, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it started getting to the point of like, USSR, World War One, level when they were literally like shooting their guys who didn't, want to go and fight. Because like in World War One, they were like, okay, you get the gun, you get the bullets, and then you just run behind them with nothing and
Dude,
pick up the gun of whoever dies.
The opening scene of Enemy at the Gates.
Yes.
And that's the siege of Stalingrad. That's World War
And
II,
it's
but they're
1000% accurate though.
That's a holdover philosophy from World War I. The one with the rifle shoots. When the one with the rifle dies, the one with the bullets picks up the gun and he shoots.
Yep.
We don't have enough rifles to give all of you. but
don't
worry, you're going to have an opportunity to use it in about 20 minutes.
And so many people don't realize, like, that's just not something they threw in that was cute for the movies. That was like real. That was reality. And then you also had what was happening in Vietnam, where with the officers getting killed off so fast, you had these second lieutenants, first lieutenants, like, you're gonna go do X, and they're like, no, the fuck, I'm not gonna do it. Oh, okay, just listen to him. Let him do it. And as soon as Lieutenant turns his back, pop him from a distance. So it's getting to that point over there in Israel, and I mean, I don't know how much they would have to get to the point where they would actually have to commit like active duty special forces to actually like get involved. And now what they're doing is they're like basically decommissioning guys and sending them over. And so, well, you're no longer in the military. Go on over there. And they're sending like, NATO troops under guise of being being French Legion and stuff like that.
Mm.
And so they've already obliterated most of like those mercs that they can send over to help out, and they kind of can't do much more with Ukraine. And also Putin has kind of been increasing the attacks because now the Russian citizens are like, you know what, kind of tired of this shit over there. So I know we gave you guys like limited, we gave you guys a limited field to work on this operation. We're about to open up the floodgates and let you guys really use some troops. And it's going from like 300 when he took out his like household guard to the part 2 when it was like full on, unleashing the hounds. And I think that they know this is not a good move. We got to get out of this conundrum. We knew we were going to have to get out at some point, and this popping up right now in Israel's a perfect segue for us.
Well, and even the people who had pipe dreams about Ukraine are starting to come around. I've seen a number of people in the very, very, very mainstream press in the last week or so, after it started being reported that not only is Congress going to cut them off, but Zelensky's not even attending security briefings, who were like, oh, well, maybe I misread the situation. Do you think? Do you think really? Because as you mentioned, the Russians had only committed about a fifth to maybe a quarter of their active duty military over the last almost 2 years. They've gone super slow, super methodically. They haven't tried to take too much more than what they already said. This is what the people voted. They said they wanted to be part of the Federation. I guess we're going to do that. We'll protect that. With Crimea, sure. But now, even like the U.S. said was going to happen, because they made it impossible for any other solution or course of action, Putin is probably not going to stop until he at least has Odessa.
Yeah, and and they this whole narrative of, oh well, if we stop now, he's just gonna keep on going. And if he wanted to, if that was the goal, if that was the stated intention, and if Putin is like this unhinged leader that can just do whatever he wants to, and there's no accountability within the government, he's a de facto dictator, then he would have already did that shit a long time ago. There'd be no reason for him to hold back.
But why would he want to? Why would he want to? You've already got Russia. You've got enough problems there. You have enough problems there to where you're doing fucking hectic biometric surveillance and digital ID shit. You're doing fucking the CBDC. You're doing the sustainable development. You got your own fucking problems. What the hell
Not
are you going to do with
Mhm.
the useless part of Ukraine, with any part of Western Europe that in your Russian Orthodox nationalist country is basically an abomination?
Mhm.
Your cultural identity as Russians is built on not being the wasted bitch ass little freaking Nancy boys that the rest of Europe got turned into. So what? You're just gonna adopt a bunch of woke problems?
Yeah.
That's not what Putin wants. He doesn't have the money to pay for the depussification of Europe. He's going half broke paying for the denazification of Ukraine.
Not to mention, what about the Arctic? That's a lot of money that they got in resources that they'd have to pull away from that to now be a occupation state. That no, it's not feasible.
Yeah.
No,
Man,
your thoughts, Wheezy?
I concur.
I concur.
Well, I think a lot of it is all theater. Most of it, maybe all of it. I don't get too caught up in the smaller political details because I think at the end of the day, it's all show. You know, Putin's a young global leader, and some people view him as a hero, and he's going to save mankind. There are no good guys in all this stuff. I think
Yeah.
there's a bigger agenda at play, and so I suppose it's fun to talk about the little battles here and there and stuff like that, but there's bigger stuff. It's no different in the Palestinian Israeli thing. I've been seeing a lot of crisis actors on both sides, quite frankly,
Well,
and you have to be on one side because the other guys are evil, and if you're on that side, the other side is evil, and just like everything else, there's nuance to it. But I also smell a lot of fishiness, a lot of false flagginess. I mean, I think it was
well,
this week where it came out the insider trading, and then Israel knew about the attacks up into a year in advance, and it still happened. So many things are looking like 9/11.
well,
And what did they say when it first came out? This is our 9/11. So is that a confession? By you
I would.
saying this is our 9/11, that it's an inside job, are you confessing to it? It's all nonsense.
Well, we've all kind of, especially here, we've been saying that for the longest that without even knowing that they knew about it for that long. Um, and now they're even confessing, like, yeah, we knew the attack was imminent hours before it happened. The fact that nothing was done
The
about it.
festival still went on and went longer than planned. So what the
But
hell's going on, man? It
I
doesn't take.
believe that they wanted that to happen so that they could
Yeah.
do what they're doing right now. I mean,
they
for
met not
purpose.
once from midnight to like 5 o'clock in the morning before that attack, and this is Haaretz reporting it.
Yeah.
There.
Yep.
I mean,
And that's the thing when you, and I said this I can't remember who I was speaking with, but we were talking about, I listen to Breaking Points, with Crystal and Sagar. It's mainstream stuff, but out of all the mainstream, I find them a little bit more open-minded towards conspiratorial leanings and I feel they're a little bit more honest. I think they have some terrible takes at times,
Oh yeah,
100%.
definitely.
But as far as mainstream stuff, I like to listen to their perspectives. But when you got people like them, Crystal and Sagar, even saying, yeah, there's a lot of fishiness, but it's probably incompetence. That to me is the smoking gun. All right, I don't believe in incompetence, man.
They're
It's like
just
saying it's just
they're just
coincidence.
naive. That's all. They're
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
very,
yeah,
very naive in a lot of their ways of viewing all this stuff. That would be my take on it. I
yeah.
honestly,
I agree.
so yeah, we've said for the longest, and hearing IDF soldiers say it's BS that an attack like that would go down without nobody, you know. I mean, they literally have like earthquake sensors that senses too much movement. Cats set off the sensors all the time, and you're telling me just randomly all the troops were pulled off of the border at that time to be all the way in the West Bank. And then you factor in the political climate that was going on there in the country. You have the fact that Netanyahu is getting close to like a literal like civil war in the country. Like people want him out badly. And the only way to extend his career is something has to happen. And I heard Crystal and Sagar be like, "Oh well, I don't see that he would, that he would do
Because it's
something
an
like
election
this."
year. Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Are you serious? I mean,
Yeah.
all he has to do is look at what happened with 9 because they all keep using 9/11. Well,
Uh-huh.
what happened after 9/11 for George Bush? His poll numbers shot through the roof. It's not beyond reason that Bibi wouldn't make that same calculation that maybe his poll numbers could be reversed and shoot through the roof, especially after you don't have very many other options.
Yeah, man, I completely agree with you. But I only brought them up just because I think to me it was like reverse psychology, hearing it from them, well, obviously there's weird stuff going on, but it can't be that because it's an election year. I'm like, oh man, bingo, bingo. That's exactly why it would happen. I mean, that's
Mhm.
exactly what a false flag is. You're doing these events to distract from other things. I mean, that's essentially what a false flag is. And I just think that, like you said, they're naive. They're in denial. Um, their mind doesn't allow them to even entertain that because uh, it's one of those things. You really have to hit the rabbit holes deep in the conspiracy world to understand it. Because if you're looking at it from a normie lens, this stuff doesn't make sense. People can't be this evil, and your mind just shuts you off. You may not be even consciously thinking or even knowing that that's what you're doing, but that's exactly what's happening. And until you go deeper down these rabbit holes, you're like, damn, these sick psychopaths really do exist, and it makes a lot more sense rather than incompetence.
It's a video that I'm trying to find right now. Oh man, with Netanyahu. You know which one I'm talking about, Steve?
I think he went to take a poop.
Oh, sorry. Let
I'm
me see
just
if I
kidding.
can find it.
He probably went to grab a smoke.
Let me see, or just something to drink.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Wink, wink. Poop, poop.
Let's see. I can't spell right now, so apologies. Because it's somebody put together. I can't remember who put together this clip, and he basically goes through like a list, and it's showing him over the years. I guess I could just anybody who's seen it. Let's see. Oh, there you go. It says "Be right back." But anybody who's seen the clip is literally Bibi going through like all the countries that he feels if you just go into this country, then the world would be safer. And so he was basically
That
talking about the US should be fighting Russia, the US should be fighting Iraq, they should be fighting Afghanistan, we should be fighting in Syria. And it's like,
he's got his
hello.
fantasy draft
Well, the interesting thing
of the
about it is,
countries to invade.
yeah, he was calling out countries we should invade. And
It
if
sounds like
you
that Wesley Clark interview. Remember?
it, y-
Dude.
you're right. You're right with me what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it, because I don't know, somebody has sent it to me. It was like, I don't know where it's at, but I had it on I know it's been going around on X, and it was all the different countries which I think somebody was like, and yeah, and who else do you think that we should invade? And oh, well, if you do this, if you go in and you take Saddam out of power, then things will get much better and the world will be safer. And it was like all of these places that he named are literally all the places that all of a sudden the State Department decided to go into. And it was at the same time when Bibi was still in power. And what you start to notice is our foreign policy is Israel's foreign policy. So for me, seeing the US and the whole Ukraine thing, the whole proxy of them pushing back more and more and more on Ukraine, the whole Russia Ukraine thing doesn't surprise me if you look at it from a lens of, okay, so who are the people who BB thinks we should fight? And that's who the US is fighting. And so the fact that either that's a very, very, very huge coincidence, or there's something actually to it. And you look at when it comes to any kind of funding to Israel, Israel's literally like one of the few things besides like renaming a post office that gets like 98% approval. I mean, mostly it has to be some like simple nothing bill. Oh, okay, does this person deserve a Medal of Honor? Yeah, sure, we'll all agree on that. But anything else that's even like more than $5, you can't get consensus on. But all of a sudden, and oh, speaking of that, did you see that president from what is it? I think it's Penn, who she just resigned, the one who just and then I'm just noticing for people who are saying that they don't have any power, that they're not controlling anything, that and it's anti-Semitic to say that they're controlling anything. It seems like a lot of people are jumping when they're told to jump.
Yeah. Well, it's that even this week, that whole measure labeling anti-Zionism the same
Yep.
as anti-Semitic.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that shit pissed me off. It's the most garbage thing ever, man. One is a political ideology.
Yep.
And then if you want to go into what exactly is a Semite, Arabs are Semites.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. So that whole measure, and like you just said earlier, like you're seeing when people are told to jump, they fucking jump. And even, I don't know if it was this week or previously, where what was that candidate? There was a candidate that was told to back out by the ADL, and he was offered several millions to back out, and he called them out on their bullshit. But he was like, dude, this is how much power these people have.
You have a group of people who belong to a terrorist death cult that are predominantly Eastern Europeans who have identified as Jewish in order to pull this off. But there's Bibi has like bragged about his atheism. You know what I mean? He's a Zionist through and through.
Yeah, they're damn
But
proud too, man.
he is not by any stretch of the imagination religious. And there's a number of people openly in the Knesset, the further right you go, that are like, yeah, no, I mean, Jewish, sure, but I'm here for the expansion of the Zionist project. Not,
Yeah.
you know, you got to do what you want to do. The fact that people have been duped, yeah, especially the American, we go to temple because we have to go to temple, but we're not really practicing religious. That community has been so fucking suckered and so hoodwinked and so lied to and so fucking bred into their own bullshit that they're never gonna be able to fucking step outside of it unless they have like just getting punched in the face with a little bit of reality to where they're even brave enough. Because I mean, the shunning that happens in that community if you stop towing the Zionist line makes the Amish look like fucking just patty cakes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't fault somebody for being in the middle of that, having questions and keeping their freaking mouths shut. I don't fault them. I don't. That's got to be
There
really
there's a lot of
difficult.
bullshit.
Well,
Yeah, man.
I mean,
Yeah, go
oh
ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, it's just the more it plays out, I'm starting to see people wake up to the shenanigans, man.
Yeah.
Marcus and I have talked about it. Like I told him growing up, I just thought I grew up in Southern California. To me, Jewish people were just white kids that didn't believe in Jesus. That was my view on it.
Yeah,
There was nothing
because
to it.
well, you don't have like it's the interactions that you have with an insular community are pretty limited. So, you know, if you're not having like over the top bad experiences with any group of people, chances are you're not going to have a negative opinion about that particular group of people. And what you hear about them or what they went through is just going to be accepted conventional wisdom. You're not really going to challenge it because you're not put in a confrontational situation where you would even have to be like, oh, really? Do we need to examine your fucking history? But you're going to put mine under a microscope. You're going to talk, you know, to make assumptions about what I am or who I am or where I come from. Okay, fuck it. Let's flip this. You know, that's those situations don't arise really.
But it's happening now, man.
It is
you know,
happening now.
because like before, you know, that was just my take. No beef, nothing. It's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But I always found it weird how just the term anti-Semitic, I'm like, it's just a religious belief. Like, who cares
Well-
if you don't like a religious belief? I grew up Catholic. I would hear people saying the Catholic Church is the whore of Babylon. That shit pissed me off as a kid. But that wasn't racist or discriminatory. People could say that. They still say it all the time. But you talk shit about a little fucking pentagram star on a white flag, blue colors. Now it's wrong. Now
Hexagram.
get the hell out of here, man. It's the same shit. You don't think it hurt me as a young Catholic kid hearing other kids and other people saying that my church was the whore of Babylon? Fuck yeah, that hurt. But it was no crime. So why should it be any different? And that's when I started questioning. I'm like, wait a minute. These are white folks that spin dreidels and shit. Why do they have added protections when they don't get the same look when they go into the store as I do? They don't get looked at the same. So why are they getting added protection? In a way, it's kind of like the trans situation. And there's many similarities, man. You got both groups identifying as something that some believe in their head or just whatever, and they're just going with it. And everyone else is supposed to just go along and accept it. and it's all a facade, bro.
Well, don't
On
forget
both
beating
sides.
the entire population over the head with their imagined victimhood.
Yeah, yeah. Like that's the silliest thing. There's this one dumbass on Twitter. I can't remember his name. He's a lefty, and he's always like crying about Trump, and you're like, "Rah, rah, rah." Well, lately he's been crying about like all these anti-Semites because I guess he's Jewish. I just he's a white dude. I didn't even know he was Jewish until he's like, fuck you, you know, if you're anti-Semitic, I'm Jewish and I'm proud. I'm tired of being oppressed. I'm like, what the fuck? You look like a white. I would have never even known until you started talking about it. And I out here in
That's
Florida,
the
man,
thing,
we
dude.
have
Like,
these
if
Amish people.
you're an Orthodox Jewish person, the last thing you want to be lumped in with is the white community.
But the thing is, with a lot of these people, the way I looked at it, maybe Marcus will probably understand where I'm coming from, is a lot of these people, some of them you can tell, even though they're white, you can tell they're Jews. Why? Because they have little curly sideburns and a fucking hat. It's no different than the Amish community out here in Sarasota, Florida. They're all white, but you can tell they're fucking Amish because they have Abraham Lincoln beards and overalls.
Yeah, but those dudes are like white. Those are like fucking Dutch, German, shit like that. I guess, you know what I mean? Like there's I understand.
Yeah.
Look, dude, I grew up. I mean, I understood the Caribbean diaspora when I was growing up, which is something that a lot of fucking white people just don't have the opportunity, don't have the access to. But like, people don't understand that there's no such thing as white people. Do you know what I mean? Like up until very, very, very recently, you had completely different cultures, race, shit like that. Like the same skin tones overall, but there's people who have tribal conflicts that go back fucking, hundreds, thousands of years, where their families all hate each other just because you live the fucking county over. You live half of a fucking, percentage point of like different relatives or something. Fucking your different tribes. We're what, 9 or 12 German tribes or something like that all fucking hated each other and wanted to kill each other for fucking centuries. And then they figured out that there were French people and they could all beat them up. So they had fun doing that for a little bit. But like, I mean, that's just how that shit rolled.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about like going back to the whole like the anti-Semitic saying, Zionism is anti-Semitic. I think about like how many times where I've seen Jewish people be the forefront of the people who are biggest against Zionism. I mean, one of the videos I just saw recently that was going down in this was in Israel, and you had some of the Hasidics, the ones with the little curls on the side. They were literally getting like beat up by the IDF.
Yeah.
And and so right now, honestly, it's gotten more hyper religious within Israel. And I feel like AIPAC, well, I feel like you can see AIPAC has gotten a lot more aggressive in enforcing their will. And I feel like it's getting to a point where and this is why I tell people all the time, it's best, especially if you're Jewish, to just be on the record saying, hey, I either support or I'm against, because I could see a day when, because of the action of the Zionists and AIPAC and stuff like that, that they're literally making it less safe for Jewish people. And I'm careful with saying this because I don't want people to think, oh, well, it's because that I'm going to come and attack a bunch of Jewish people. It ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm just trying to give you a warning because I'm looking at and I read rooms and I can see, okay, you're going to keep on pissing off these people, and they're about to do something to you. I'm just trying to tell you before, somebody comes over and fucks with you. I mean, and how you were talking about like your experience growing up with Jewish people, I literally grew up around. no Jewish people that I knew of. I mean, I don't. Maybe about a year ago was the first time I saw a Hasidic person in real life. It was like we were in a car and driving past, and they were on the streets. I
Hincham?
it was like a leprechaun, you know. It's like they're real.
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
I didn't
Selfie.
even. And if they said, "Oh, well, they just hate you because you're a Jew," it's like, you know how many of my like favorite actors and stuff like that growing up and comics and all that were Jewish that I had no freaking clue about.
Yeah,
To me, whether you were Jewish or not, I could care less. I just
exactly.
it literally.
You don't know
It's like
shit.
I don't. It's like I didn't know anything about you to even dislike you, because it's not like Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses who come and knock at your door and tell you what they believe. Most of us had no clue what the hell Jewish people believe, especially like growing up. And I mean, like I did a little bit of mass, but mostly I went to a Baptist church. You don't hear anything about what Jewish people believe at all.
Well, that's because it was a First Baptist church, right?
I mean, I guess it can fall up under First Baptist, yeah.
Because Southern Baptist churches, I've noticed, have an opinion about the Jews.
No, well, yeah, but you got to remember, there's a difference. You're talking about First, and for those who don't know, we're talking about Southern Baptist versus First Baptist. Basically, we're talking about black church versus white church.
Oh shit! I was gonna say, who's the third string? Who's the fourth string?
I know. You gotta remember, Steve grew up in Indiana. I know. There's a difference when they tell you Southern Baptist. That's a key word for saying white church. And I would say probably half of the people in that church, they feel a type of way about all people with a little bit of melanin.
Those are the type of people that show up to, like, they're still in church wearing these sunglasses. The preacher has these sunglasses. It's
Probably probably make the Street Fighter edition.
By the way, I'll be at services at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Everyone.
There you go.
They're the ones that finish church and be like, "Hey, and did you know Jesse Lee's daughter was over there messing with them blacks?" That's those type of churches.
What?
That's those.
Well, looks like we're gonna stop off at the old home place, grab a few axe handles, hit up the Cracker Barrel, have a nice post-church supper, and then we gonna get us a few of them darkies.
Yep,
I love
those type of churches. Yep,
I love to shoot all kinds of cans. I like to shoot Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, all kinds of cans, boy.
Don't you forget them Dominicans.
Wow.
But it's for real. Like I literally hit like over 35 and like didn't even know if I met any Jewish people, because it's like something I didn't even think about. It wasn't like I was like, so are you Jewish so I can know to have a problem with you? No, honestly, most of the people who, like, especially people I served with in the military, if you weren't going to religious functions with me, then I really didn't pay attention to what you believed in or had a problem with what you believed in. You could be an atheist, you can believe in fucking moon people. I mean, I didn't really care. It did not matter to me because you're not infringing on my beliefs or my rights. So it's not an issue to me. So when I hear people and I'll hear a lot of, I'm not gonna say a lot, but I'll hear certain Jewish people who will be like, see, look at you with those anti-Semitic tropes. I'm like, you do realize most of us grew up in areas where we weren't even around Jewish people to even know what anti-Semitic tropes are. We don't even know what you're talking. Like, see, he said I had a big nose, and that makes he's being anti-Semitic. Like,
what the fuck,
we don't even know that that's a trope. Many of people, and I think part of it is because that's that being so insular in a community. Like, and you get a lot of Jewish people who are from New York who do have run-ins with black people. And so just because they have those run-ins with black people in New York, they assume every black person across the country is having these same interactions too. That's why when I would see books that were titled like the relationship between blacks and Jews, I'm like, there's a relationship? Oh shit, maybe I should read that and learn that we have a relationship.
Right. And then maybe 5, 10, 15 years later, I could read a different set of books that'll give me a completely different perspective on that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
my dad is like
Mhm.
hyper religious, very, very. He's not one of these Mexican Catholics that just goes to church like once a year. You know,
He's Catholic.
my dad lives in church, man. He's like an extremist Catholic, and I remember having discussions with him, and I'd bring up the Arabs and Jewish folks. Like Jews are God's chosen people. And I'm like, why aren't we all fucking chosen people, man? Why I remember questioning it, early on, and then I'd bring up, what about Arabs, Dad? And he's like, no, the dads are. I, the translation, he'd say it in Spanish. The Arabs are the race of snakes. I'm like, what the fuck, Dad? You look like a fucking Arab, bro. Like, what are you talking about? But that was his religious extremist views, man, and
Which is wild because there's really no Islam without the Catholic Church.
Well, there's no
and
Islam
there's no
without the
Catholic
Bible.
Church without Judaism.
Well, I mean, the Catholic Church basically like made Islam happen
Yeah, in
because
the 6th
they
century.
they wanted and needed a like protectorate native army to fucking safeguard their claim to the Holy Lands.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
Isn't
Islam is.
that
They
batshit
sent nuns
crazy,
to
man?
go fucking find and create Muhammad.
Yeah. In which I heard stories that I don't know how true this is, and you can probably correct me if you know more about this, Steve, but that Muhammad was actually like the great great grandfather of like Queen Elizabeth II.
There's
That he was a
I
fucking
haven't heard that.
Habsburg.
there's supposed to be some kind of like wild ass fucking, but I don't know, the last couple accounts that I read didn't mention anything about that whatsoever. It was almost like a 7 years in Tibet kind of thing, where the church sent out a number of priests and nuns to go like find a holy kid that they were going to raise up to be effectively the Prophet Muhammad. And that's where the Muhammad figure came from, was the Catholic creation.
Well, I mean, because when you read about Muhammad in the Quran, it literally talks about how white his skins are, how white his shins are, how white his armpits are. I'm like, his armpits, that's fucking weird. Oh,
White
but it starts,
armpits?
yeah, it starts about
wearing-
it reiterates how white his skin is over and over and over,
Was he
and then
using
makes them
Allspice?
mention his black slaves.
Huh.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then when you hear the Jesus, the very few Jesus descriptions, he had hair like wool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And burning brass, and but if you hear the Catholics, they'll no, that
Let me-
means like it's glowing. It's glowing like
It was his aura. You see,
Yeah.
that's what it was. The Son of God just emitted so much presence that you saw exactly what you thought the image of God would look like. So if he had an afro, that's because you did. It's not
we were
because he
in
did.
the ambiance.
Yeah.
You know-
Everybody knows Jesus looks like Cesare Borgia. Everybody knows that. It's just, you know.
Of course he was an Italian. Of course Jesus was an Italian.
What's interesting is, in related to what we're just talking about right now, is the outrage with first it was the Little Mermaid being cast black, and now I guess somewhere in Eastern Europe they were planning on using a black woman as Santa Claus to replace. But that got shut down. That got shut down by the politicians. Like, oh, we cannot have this. Santa Claus needs to be white. And in both of these instances, whether it's the
a
Little
mythical
Mermaid,
figure cannot change colors.
they're mythical figures, and they're losing their shit over it. But these same people will have a white Jesus in their living room. How the hell does that make any goddamn sense? You're losing your shit over fake ass shit, but then you have white Jesus in your living room.
Well,
Explain
it's the same thing you run into with like people in North Africa and Egypt and stuff like that, who it's pretty clear that you guys are having bad problems with sunburning, and then you completely omit that the Greeks, the Romans, and the Ottoman Turks ruled over that area for literally centuries. And you don't think that changed the complexion of the area at all? That just always that these people always look like this, that they always look that complexion. And you literally see people like darker people in Egypt, or even some of the people, they'll be like, nah, if you look back to all the pyramids before like the 25th dynasty, all of them look like Wesley Snipes, damn near. It's like it changed at the time when the Greeks came in.
Yeah.
And that you could show that everywhere else, even in Italy and in Spain. The native Spaniards and Italians, they're white as hell. Look at the bust of Marcus Aurelius, Julius Caesar, white dudes. Mm-hmm. The reason you have some of the brown dudes is due to the Moorish invasion. And so that takes you back to the Jewish question. Okay, let's think critically. Why the hell are there white folks in the Middle East?
Well, technically, I'll throw in a little critique, which a lot of people don't.
I like how you froze, Marcus. You're smiling.
I know.
And you're a ventriloquist right now. Go ahead.
And it's funny on mine. Steve is frozen. Kind of reminding me a little bit of George Carlin. But
one big club.
I'll take it.
But it's kind of funny to me, like if you go back and you look at the Mycenaeans and the Minoans and the Etruscans, you see dark people that were there way back when, and you even go into like Cheddar Man, who's like the oldest like skeletal remains, and they're like, yeah, this is somebody who has DNA that matches like sub-Saharan Africa, which they always sub-Saharan.
I think we lost him.
We did. Man down.
I'm trying to wonder if I should let him back on the stream. What do you think, Steve?
Oh, maybe.
We need to block him. I'm just kidding. Oh boy. No, he did let me know earlier that this could happen. So he said, like, just take over the show. Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things that just get there. We go.
At that point, they're like, oh shit, this nigger's getting dangerous. All right. Put him off.
Producer, take him off.
But if you look back into, like, I'm talking about, like, I want to say 7,000, 8,000 BC, and you start seeing a lot of these areas had darker people there. Now, I'm not saying that they were all like black people, but you had like people that would be the complexion of like Hawaiians and like modern day like some Somalians to Middle Eastern who were in that area.
Gaddafi looked Polynesian.
Yeah.
A lot of those Libyan cats look fucking Polynesian. Like
the Polynesians were
down to the curly ass hair, like not even like the nap to it, but you know how it's like fucking that like, yeah, dude, it's the same hair and shit. It's wild.
Dude, Polys were probably some of the greatest seafarers of all time, and never get any love, man, by anyone.
And I would say that. Well, and if you look back also to these Minoans, Do you realize that their tattoos and stuff are identical to what you see to like Tongans, and they're wearing
And
grass
Maori
skirts
and
and
shit like
shit?
that. Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I'm
Yeah.
like, so why do they have the same culture? These Pacific Islanders have the same culture as the ancient Greeks.
That's kind of crazy. I grew up with a lot of Polynesians when I was a youngster. So a lot of my homies was Polynesians, and I learned a lot about their culture. They loved my mom's tamales, and it was awesome, man. The meshing of two distinct cultures, but yet we had certain similarities. Growing up, in immigrant, first generation households and shit like that. But when you think of Polynesians, I mean, all you have to do is pull out a map. I don't care if you're a flat earther, whatever, glober, whatever the hell you want to call yourself. Just look at the map. Look at the Polynesian islands, and look how far away they are from any other landmass. And for these sons of bitches to make it there and thrive, is it really preposterous to think that they didn't make it anywhere else and land anywhere else and send out explorers? We already have, and this is archaeological evidence based. This is even conjecture or conspiracy theory. It's been proven that they made it to South America in the 1300s. And it's been proved through evidence such as the chickens and sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are not native to the Polynesian islands. They're native to South America, and yet sweet potatoes are in droves in the Polynesian islands. And even though they didn't have written language or anything like that, that's the thing that makes it hard to, piece it together, because they didn't write anything down. They just went out and kicked some ass. But the sweet potato and the chickens, that's how else are you going to explain that? You know what I'm saying? So they obviously had communication. There's even evidence that they made it to California way back in the day, way before Columbus ever even set foot on this continent. And yet you don't hear about this in mainstream. You don't get taught this in schools. It's like it's being purposely suppressed. For what reason, I'm not totally sure of. But there's a lot of shit that just keeps surfacing.
Well, I mean, it's not taught in schools because there aren't predominantly Polynesian schools. I mean, it's just
in Salt Lake City, bro. Salt Lake
Yeah.
City, man.
Oh, here's something. This is what I was looking for. Check this out. This right here is a Minoan fresco. And for those who don't know what I mean, Minoa is this was ancient Greece. Now, like, couple white dudes here. This dude's kind of got a little tint. He's kind of like a light brown. You got some brown here. Brown here. Brown guys down here. And then what you'll hear from like the Eurocentrics is they'll be like, oh, well, they just painted people who worked outside darker and people who worked inside lighter to denote that they had different jobs. That's the explanation to explain away that they look darker. I was like, what?
Yeah,
and it's the same
fascinating.
thing.
You can see tons of Egyptian stuff too as well, where it's clearly Black Africans, not Arab or Semitic Africans, not whatsoever. And people
here's the thing.
Oh,
because this is to separate that Black people couldn't be Semitic,
except for Jesus Christ. Yeah, no.
I mean, not
whole
to
thing's
mention
ridiculous.
that
You got 12 tribes in Africa. None of them look like Patrick Ewing. Seriously? Come on. I don't know who's supposed to buy that. Hi, Gomez.
Come here,
boy.
Haven't seen him in a while. But I always thought that it was hilarious that this whole argument, and I mean, somebody can say that I'm picking on people, but well, what is it? Hamza says Algerians are white. Yeah, but was Algeria always white? That's the thing. And I would argue that most of North Africa wasn't always the complexions that they are. And some of those people who are white in some of those areas literally did come from like the slave trades when the North Africans were going into like parts of Western Europe and like literally taking slaves out. And it was like all kind of raids where they were kidnapping people all from Europe and selling them into slavery. And it was just like how you have black people who were in certain parts of the world through slavery. There are white people in certain parts of the world through
I get it.
slavery.
I'm sorry, I gotta hop up and take the dog out. But I mean, from
Sure.
the best that I've been able to research it, the slave trade in general was Arab in origin.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely was, except for
Well, if
no,
you look at the Bible,
yeah. Well, no,
the
well,
Bible, Exodus 21 is a whole instruction manual on slavery. That's one thing.
well, when he's
people don't
talking
really
about
know.
like the as far as the slave trade, the
I
where
mean,
it
like,
was
yeah,
where it was
I mean,
going from
going back,
nation
I
to nation, that would be the sub-Saharan, and that was the first time where you had mass migrations of taking slaves from like
yeah, like
Central Africa all the way over to like China.
yeah,
Whereas before it would just be tribal to tribe,
yeah,
So like,
or the fucking there was a whole period where the like Hyksos or something like that, who were pre what the early Egypt, and
mhm,
just they would come like they would go to have excursions into like Central Africa and shit like that, and fucking have raiding parties,
yeah,
and then bring these motherfuckers as far north as they could, like
mhm,
beyond Syria. And that's where a lot of the initial like just the whole, I don't know what, cappuccinoing
mhm,
of the cultures
of the
there.
Middle East, yeah.
Yeah, because they were a little bit lighter in pigment further north, obviously. But I mean, you go up into Syria, light skinned motherfuckers up there.
But I mean, think about it. It goes all the way back to somebody like Alexander. And when Alexander
Yeah,
first went in, like people do, I don't think people take into like
Turks can look almost
how
as
much
dark
he
as you
really
and almost
conquered.
as light as me. Turk,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
Well,
Like
the whole
how much
burning
he
of
really conquered.
Alexandria. I
Like
mean,
he really conquered, and it's like y'all do know that like he conquered all the way over into India. Like he literally subjugated India. Well, he didn't. He died, but his generals later on kept it subjugated for like centuries,
he
and
was
it just got
Genghis
passed on.
Khaning before Genghis Khan. 1,000
Exactly.
years
As a
prior.
teenager, man,
Yeah.
Yeah.
as a freaking teenager.
Yeah.
Dude,
If
all
I
that
mean,
shit fascinates me, man. Even the whole thing about the burning of the library at
At
Alexandria.
Alexandria.
I listened to the show by another professor that gave a
I'll be
slightly
right back.
different take from the
All right.
normal narrative, and he was talking about how it wasn't as dramatic as we've been told, and the library was probably not as big, So basically, over time, the story has just been embellished.
I mean,
It was an interesting take, nonetheless.
I would argue that the library and the campus of Timbuktu was probably 4 times the size of Alexandria.
Yeah, yeah. And being, that my Mesoamerican heritage, man, when I first learned about the Aztec libraries being burnt, we have no scope or size, of what was contained in those libraries. Was it all their history? Was it knowledge that will never be resurfaced again because it's been buried and destroyed? I don't know, man. So much nonsense happens with, with war in general.
Yeah.
The elites rake it in, and the common folk are the ones that get destroyed, and we see that over and over, even in this current climate, man.
And I would argue that there's probably more of it that is locked away than we know that's not outright destroyed. I
There could
think
also
that
be some like auctioned, private
well,
fucking
not only
elitist.
that, but I would say, but I mean, it's well known that the Vatican has tons of things.
Mm,
Which I
mm.
mean, the Vatican City is only like a mile. I mean, I've been there, and it's not very big, but I've heard people who are able to go, and I've even seen like some of the videos when they kind of go down there. The Vatican goes down deep, 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 and
And
there's
what they
so
have
many
there,
levels up under there. Yeah,
yeah. What That's one of those things, man. It's kind of like the Arctic. What is really going down there? I mean, we can speculate a lot, but I mean, the church. I know you brought up a different council. What was the council that you brought up the other day when I was
Carthage, the Council
Carthage?
of Carthage.
And a lot of people bring up the Council of Nicaea.
Hmm.
That's the one that gets talked about, I think,
Well,
more frequently.
and I'll tell
But
you, if somebody who talks that somebody that you'll hear that constantly bring up Council of Nicaea, and they never mention Council of Carthage, automatically that should be a red flag
I
because
never heard. Well, maybe I had heard, but maybe it came in one ear and came out. But I
well,
couldn't recall what
most
you
people
brought up.
don't
And
hear
then,
about Carthage. Most people don't hear anything
yeah,
about that one, and you typically would have to like almost go to seminary school to even learn about it because
yeah,
that's where a large like a compilation of the modern Bible like first ones even came from
yeah,
because they were literally taking that the ancient scrolls that they can find and deciding, okay, we're going to put this in, because before how it was is like you wanted Genesis was like, okay, here's a scroll and you just have this long huge long scroll that you read, and each one of them, it wasn't like, oh well, Genesis 1, Genesis chapter 2. I mean, they were just like long scrolls. Well, it might have been chapter 1 or chapter 2, chapter 3, whatever, but how they're broken apart in the first verse, the second verse, the third verse, they weren't broken into verses. It was just like one long thing, just like one long letter being written. And
yeah.
that's what a lot of people don't know about those. And so the Council of Nicaea was just them deciding on the deity of if Jesus was God and the Trinity and that kind of stuff. But like
Well,
the
even what books were gonna be put in, and which ones were gonna make the cut, which ones were
no,
not
no,
gonna
no,
make
that
the
was
cut.
before. That was in Carthage.
Yeah,
That was in Carthage when they decided which books were going to be in it. At that time, that's when what's called now the Apocrypha, that's when it was in, and
yeah.
that was like stripped out of the Bible later on. The reason why
And
it
where are
got
those books now? Don't you think they're in the Vatican somewhere?
the original stuff which survived, oh definitely. Definitely.
And I guess to that point, that's kind of what makes me incredulous to it all. Is that okay? Who was the arbiter on what made the cut and what didn't? You know what I'm saying? Um, Basically, what we get now
Mhm.
is the version that passed all the
This
all
is
the
correct.
security
This is
measures.
correct. Carthage separated out the Gnostics. Yes, it separated out Gnostic texts, a lot of it, because that's when you were able to see actual like contradictions. Like, and I don't mean like contradictions like some people like, oh, well, they were just taking it out because it was question this. No, it'd be contradictions as big as this person is in this town and lived at this time, and the Gnostics would say something completely vastly different. And you can tell, like, even the writing form was different than the flow of the rest of it. So it was obviously clear that, okay, these are some other people as a completely who is writing this. This is not the same people who are writing these. But that gets into a whole nother,
Yeah,
they don't want to hear about all that right now. But it's kind of interesting when you get into these different elites, and because that all the whole thing with the elites and stuff ties back
it
to
ties back in.
it ties back into what we're dealing with today. The whole Russia thing. The reason why the United States is so obsessed with Russia is because I'm gonna be careful how I say this. They're a group of people who have had a lot of sway and power, have a vendetta against Russia, and have had a vendetta against Russia for a very long time. And they were able to exact their revenge on Germany, but they were never able to get that get back on Russia, and and being expelled from Russia. And so,
Although, I mean, you could
Mhm.
argue that because Lenin and Trotsky and
Mhm.
Stalin and almost all of the officers that ran Russia's concentration camps that exterminated ethnic Russians
Yeah, yeah.
to the tune of the tens of millions,
Mhm.
exacted that get back through the experiment called the USSR,
True.
and
Because
that
what is it,
the
like, up
person
to
that
40 million? Up to 40 million that was.
there's between 40 and 60 million, depending on
Yeah.
the accounts that you read.
Mhm.
And you could argue that Putin presents much more of an original threat to the Khazarian mafia
Yeah.
than just about anybody else on the planet right now.
Oh, exact. I don't. I'm so glad you brought that up because that's so understated. That's so, and I've said this before. This is part of the problem that we have sometimes with in our community of, like, so-called conspiracy theorists. Um, and I because I say this on here on the Political Matrix all the time. You don't have to believe what I have to believe. Just you need to know it and understand it, because the people who rule this world, they are focused on, whether people say they're Bible stories and Bible fantasy fiction or whatever they do. They believe in all this stuff, and they do run things by this, and it has a much bigger effect on their worldview, their world politics, and their world objectives. And if you just completely throw it all out because you don't believe it, then you're missing a big part of what's going on, and it's hard to see where somebody's going, because you might not have to know the minutia to every little move, but if you can understand where their end point or their objective is, you can know where they're going to try to get there before them.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of my 20s fucking dismissing a lot of things out of hand because I didn't believe it,
Mm-hmm.
and I've like, considered myself not stupid, so if it wasn't a belief that I had, it must be nonsense. So why should I bother? That was dumb in hindsight of trying to discourage my kids from falling into that trap,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily I didn't have anybody telling me, "Hey, look, just because you don't believe it doesn't mean they don't. And if they think it's real, they're gonna do those things regardless of how silly you think it is." Nobody ever actually broke that down to me. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I had to fucking figure that shit out. And I think that if people had someone just hand that to them, like
Mm-hmm.
early on, it would allow for a lot more open minded thought because you really don't have to include yourself in it. You're allowed to observe this. You have permission to not feel one way or the other about it because it's not your belief system, if that's how it is, so you can look at it as objectively as humanly possible, with the understanding that regardless of what your original thought about, this religion or this football team or whatever the fuck it is, doesn't matter in the context, because it matters to the person who believes it. Hopefully you get a little bit of an expanded viewpoint there, and it might
Yeah.
horrify you, or it
Yeah.
might, or it might be the thing that was missing in your life, and you're like, holy shit, I have a brand new fucking whole avenue of research to do. I'm like, but you have to do it in order to figure out what's going to happen afterwards, and how you're going to be able to incorporate that in your overall understanding of how the world works.
Yeah, like like this is why when in my early 20s I started focusing on world religions, and I started trying to understand, okay, so what do people in India believe? Like, okay, and as you start going into their different belief system, it started making sense on understanding their culture. And the same thing with like Russia. Russia is uh ultra orthodox Christianity. And so you got to understand that they go back to the belief systems of the old school Russian Orthodox Church. And so they have those same belief systems. So their values are going to line up with that, the same as you'll see in a lot of these African countries who were colonized by these certain nations that have held on to these certain, um, what would we call it? The not evangelicals. What are the people who go around? I can't remember what they're called.
The
People
Jehovah
who
Witness dudes, or missionaries, right?
missionary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you don't understand the beliefs of missionaries and
My
what missionaries are
grandparents were
teaching,
missionaries
yep, then
for the Church of God.
you won't understand the belief system of a lot of different countries in Africa. That's the reason why when you see like this pushback against a lot of the whole gay and LGBTQ stuff,
Because
you
that
got to
shit don't fly in
understand
Nairobi.
exactly. It do not fly over there, or Kenya, or Ghana, or any of those countries. They're like, no, 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 no. Keep that shit in the West.
Sentinel Island, baby. Send them to Sentinel Island.
Go far away with your gay shit. Take it over there. Way over there.
Yeah, they're not playing that, and I understand that. Like even and a difference with like China and Russia, for instance, what I had to learn is not only focus on understanding their religion, you got to understand their history. If you don't understand their history, I mean, as Americans and people in the West, especially, I'll speak for Australia, New Zealand, the US, France, Canada and Great Britain. When you focus on these countries in particular, and notice I left off Germany and a couple of Denmark and a couple of these other countries. The reason why is because all of the other places I named have more of a melting pot of people who came from somewhere else. They don't have a lot of the people who go back generations. I mean, some of these people, their families literally go back to like living in that land for like 4,000, 5,000 years. And I'm talking about over like 70%, 80% of their population has been there for like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 10,000 years.
Baby, Japan.
And that's a very different connection you feel when you go back that many generations strong in a nation. Whereas a lot of Americans, outside of Native Americans, which come down to about 3% of the population, the other 97% have not been here for longer than 500 years. And when you look at it that way, and that's with all of these countries, whether it's Canada, Great Britain,
Australia,
New Zealand, all of these places, when you look at it that way, then you understand, these people's nationalistic views, even if they don't believe in Buddhism or Hindu or whatever in which their country believes in, the same with like India, Pakistan. These people go back like, fucking millennia. And they know, and these people know their deep history. They know all the way back to Sultan whenever, who was 4,000 years ago. Whereas since we don't have that kind of connection, we don't have that. I don't feel like we could have that level of pride in a nation and in a history as they do.
Well, you would have to. I mean, you have to look at it. You have to look at it differently. We have to look at it differently
Mm-hmm.
because what the American experiment is,
Yeah.
for whatever you think about it, what it is a fucking effectively like a planned community. Like the first fucking one where people were like, no. We all come from established cultures. And there are things that we like about those cultures, but there are things that we have determined do not coincide with things that our pursuits, the pursuits of this age of enlightenment. There are aspects within the cultures that we all come from that are worth preserving, and there are things that we would like to expand on, those being and blah 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 Declaration of Independence and that kind of thing. So the experiment was we don't need a king, right? That's at least on paper, according to marketing. We don't need a king. No taxation without representation. For the land owning white dudes, at least. If you rented, you were fucked. In fact, black men got the vote before renters did. Black male property owners got the vote before renters did. Originally.
Yep.
But way before women did. And
even though women own more property.
Yeah.
But but
it's because they would always war widows, but yeah.
War widows, or they get some man to fucking pretend he's the husband and he's basically like the puppet.
Yeah.
Because you had a lot of that, especially like in Oklahoma.
But I mean, so I don't know, dude. I didn't even know where the fuck I was going. But it's what I'm saying is America wasn't the result of the fucking centuries to millennia of various tribes that eventually somebody got fucking clanned up enough and fucking ganged up enough to where it stopped being tribal and it started being something like a nation state, and then the nation state turns into absorption of large amounts of territory, and now we're calling it one country, and that's just not how this transpired. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think you can place the two in the same category outside of the thing that the one thing that's supposed to unify all of us is that we're all Americans, right? Whatever the fuck that means, because the territory is too big for us to really be the same anywhere. You used to be able to tell when you traveled around and nobody fucking talked the same, and you couldn't understand somebody when you went 3 states away because they were speaking an entirely different language.
Which is still like that in certain parts of Louisiana.
Oh yeah, it's still. I mean, yeah, you go to parts. There's parts in California where you're like,
no hablo
no
inglés.
idea what fucking word that means. Well, I mean, there was a huge like a huge Russian, there's a couple of huge Russian settlements up in like Northern California on the coast. One of California's first actual, like, we're building shit out of stone here now buildings was Russian. Boomville, dude, they have their own language. It's called bootling. Like they have their own fucking language. And if you don't know it, it's really hard to hang out. Dude, it really is. Yeah, those places are almost gone though.
Yeah, I mean, that's a difference. The United States is so much bigger than a lot of these nations. It's hard to hold on to cultures that are all the same. For instance, like being in Germany, when it's cold for everybody equally. Everybody's going through the winter, so everybody all has this shared feeling of what the winter is like and what the summer is like versus you got somebody who lives in New York and you got somebody who lives in Florida, night and day difference in climates for one. So obviously that makes a difference in especially going back, say, what 100 years ago, the difference in what you were eating because one area is closer to the water, so you're probably eating more seafood and things like that. Another area you might be in cattle country, like in the Midwest, where like me and Steve grew up. Whereas, like for instance, in Kansas and Missouri, beef is cheaper than chicken. Like you literally have like 3 times more cows than people. And so it's a different than what you'll run into the South where you got chickens galore and you don't have that much beef. And when you have a nation that's this large, it sets up for very different experiences for most of the people. And then and that's what you have also with like a continent like Africa where it's fucking ginormous where they always try to make it like, oh, well, you have the was it North Africa and then sub-Saharan Africa is just always one monolith when it's so vastly different for in all these different areas you go through.
You know what's an interesting thing is how you'll have some folks saying we need to be against the eugenicist ideology and there's room for everyone. And then a lot of those same folks will be like, we need the government to close our borders, god damn it. There's not enough room for all these friggin' brown folks. It's like, it's just, I'm like, all right, what are you talking about? You're saying one thing and then you're contradicting yourself on the next thing.
So what it comes down to in reality is if you try to force a melting pot on people, shit pops off.
Yeah.
And it's conflict.
Yeah, look
But
what
when-
happened to the damn Native Americans.
Right? But when people are allowed to voluntarily associate, then the shit that would ordinarily prevent you from interacting with somebody from a different culture, that kind of fades away because the force has been taken out of it. And so what is happening at the border right now is a forced melting pot situation, and there's lots of different angles to it. And the United States running around destabilizing 150 countries at once doesn't help at all. It
No.
doesn't help at all.
Well,
I
that's-
do think quickly, I do think that there are things about every culture that I've fucking experienced that are worth preserving. And I've been to a number of foreign countries. I've been all over the United States. I've fucking met people from damn near everywhere. And I think everybody has aspects of their culture that are worth preserving and honoring and looking at it as something tradition that should be carried forward. There are obviously things about everybody's individual society that are fucked up because people are fucked up.
Yeah.
But this idea that the entire fucking planet should be a homogenous, color mixture culture thing, which really seems to be what the whole fucking new world order, new global governance, like whatever shit is about, is the elimination of everything that would make anyone an individual. That's got to be resisted.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that whole issue with, if you look back in the 1950s, anything that was deemed communist, like if you were labeled a communist, what happened to you?
Get
The
rounded
worst of
up.
things. Yeah,
Hmm.
in the 1950s. Now
Should've
you got
been.
some people like, I'm parading, yeah, I'm pro Marxism and blah blah blah. Okay, I'm talking about the 1950s when it was like a sinful thing,
Yeah.
and you constantly see these things just having like there's a lot of nuance that goes on with these shit. It's not a black and white issue. You you know, it's not just one solid this and one solid that. Like even the whole border crisis thing. Um, is maybe too many folks overwhelming certain local economies? I'm sure it is. Are there other places that are benefiting by illegal immigrant labor because people don't want to do those fucking jobs? Absolutely. So there's there's always nuance to all these things, man. So when people on the extremes on both ends just pick a side and just dig their heels in, and this is where I'm at and this is the hill I'm gonna die on, it's comical because at one point I used to be one of these extremist lefties, but now I'm trying to gravitate. I know I have my biases still, but I try to gravitate towards the center and try to analyze both ends. All right, this makes a little bit more logical sense. This has a little bit better reasoning, so I'm gonna roll with this. I don't care what side it's on. And that's what's lacking nowadays. But I just, there's certain times when I hear certain things, and it's from both sides, left and right, and I'm like, wait a minute. So you're taking a stance on this issue, but you said this on this other issue, and it's just constant hypocrisy on both sides, man. That just
Like
you
the
can't
people
unsee it.
who, like the people who are pushing really hard on the whole anti-Semitism on college campuses, and this needs to be rooted out. But just not that long ago, they were all screaming about free
Cancel
speech.
culture. Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Woke tards are canceling us, and now these same people that were crying about cancel culture and censorship are trying to censor
Yeah,
free.
no, fucking whiners, dude. You're so right. You guys are so right. These are the exact same people would have loved to see Harvard burn
hmm
fucking 6 months ago. Now we have to protect our university system. Wanted safe. You want safe spaces. You want safe spaces. That's what you want. You've been
yeah,
running around making fun of every fucking woke college kid for the last 20 years over safe space nonsense. But when it comes down to this, oh no, we've got to have a safe
hmm
space for these guys because clearly they can't defend themselves. Because
hmm
if they could defend themselves, there would be some sort of like multi-billion-dollar fucking propaganda campaign that would get a whole bunch of people thinking that the people who need the absolute most protection on the face of the earth are simultaneously the same people that everyone agrees are in control of an overwhelmingly disproportionate amount of Western finance, of Western entertainment, of Western media, of Western legislatures, of Western
hmm
policymakers, of the surveillance state. Right, right. We're all supposed to believe that you can be the most defenseless victim on the face of the planet and yet simultaneously still enjoy immense power and privilege and get to hold space in positions of power that none of us, not a fucking idiot on a college campus or with fucking Ben Shapiro or Michael
yeah.
Rappaport or
Oh,
any of those
oh, he
people
was
are
that
ever gonna get to.
Michael
identity
Rappaport,
politics.
that's the
Remember?
clown with the snowball. That's, remember, Marcus, I was talking.
Remember, Ben was all big about identity politics, how evil identity
Yeah,
Parents
politics
don't care
is,
about
and
your feelings.
now he's all about identity politics when it comes
I
to
can't
Jewish
stand
people.
that whiny little bitch, man.
And
We determined on the show because there is the standard bundle of sticks, right? But that
mhm,
bundle of sticks comes in short and long versions, and we determined on the show that a new unit of measure should be a Shapiro, which would be a bundle of, it would be a short faggot as opposed to a long faggot. And so it's a much smaller bundle, but it's that unit of measure laid end to end would be one Shapiro.
And for those who do not know that, yes, a bundle of sticks is called a fag or faggot.
Yeah.
I'll have 2 fags, please.
We need
And,
to
and it's funny,
move-
like people in Britain, they're probably like freaked out when that started to become an issue. Like, well, wait a minute, hold on now. How'd you guys hijack our word?
right?
I'd like to have my faggots, please.
Well, and the Brits would be like, "Can I bum a fag?" And you're
Yeah,
like,
that
"What?
was-
Here?"
Yeah, that used to be a very common like phrase.
I'd
like,
like to bum a fag, please.
Yeah, can I bum a fag and can I nick a fag? When
Deep
I
and
was,
hard.
I briefly attended.
or yeah,
Purdue
they would say
University,
nick me one.
and I was
That
dating
sounds
a
like a
chick-
racial slur.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was dating a chick who had two. There were 2 British girls who lived on the same floor, and they knew that we smoked cigarettes, and they knew that we smoked weed. So they would stop by all the time. Can I nick a fag? Can I bum a fag? This, that, and the other. And we're like,
What are you saying?
man, I'm from Indiana. You're.
well, Nick
Getting a little
sounded
steamy in here.
to Nick one sounded even worse because it's like Nick is like to like hit somebody for us, and like, so wait a
Yeah.
minute, you're basically alluding to assaulting a homosexual. Like, whoa, wait a
You're
minute,
like,
back up.
no,
What's
I
going
just
on
wanna
here? What are you
steal
talking
a
about?
couple.
And then I learned that Nick means to steal over there.
That was wild. I didn't know how we got here. That's a fucking
How
Ben Shapiro.
Belvedere,
That's how we got on short.
I'd like to
faggot.
bum a
Ben
fag,
Shapiro.
please.
Yeah.
Well, and what cracks me up so much about, well, and I could say like just the right, just how like they were calling out the people on the left as far as the my body my choice when it came to, you know, it being vaccinated or not being vaccinated. Now they turn right around and they're being hypocritical on the free speech issue. It's just hilarious watching both of these parties, whether it's left or the right, being called out on their hypocrisies.
It just and it goes back to history. When you look at the South fucking 70, 80 years ago, used to vote all Democrat. Now it's all Republican. People that actually engage critical thinking skills, whether you're left or right, conservative, liberal, it doesn't matter. Think about that for a minute. The entire South used to vote exclusively Democrat. 2023, it's exclusively Republican.
Yeah, but you got to go
If
into
you
why
really
that
think
is.
about it,
Well, and you really have to, if you look at the breakdown on the Civil Rights Voting Act, right, 1964, it's not a Republican and Democrat breakdown at all. It's a Mason dumbass line breakdown.
Yeah.
well, you look at the Kennedy years. You had JFK. He was a liberal northerner. Who was his vice president? A Southern Democrat. And
Yeah,
so
but-
even in those times, it wasn't really clearly defined. Kinda, I guess the way it is today, where
Well, like I learned this in college, you know, in some of my political science classes, because this is the only time I ever learned about this. How many people in the crowd learned about the Lily White movement? The Lily White movement was a movement where they literally, white people were pushing black people out of the Republican Party. And that led to a lot of black people leaving the Republican Party and then eventually becoming Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, the Republicans were the anti-slavery party. There were more
from the
black
north, though. From the north.
What, like like 1870s to over almost 100 years, 80 years or something like that. The
about 90 years, yeah, because it was up until about the 60s when you start seeing that major switch.
But yeah, I mean,
Richard Nixon, if you look at the Southern strategy,
yeah.
Richard Nixon started that
Race
out
baiting.
in the
Oh, yeah.
1950s.
Yeah, well,
in the 1950s, he started. Go ahead.
and don't forget, even up until the 80s with late 70s and 80s with
The
Reagan.
oh my God, the welfare queen commercial.
Well, welfare queen, and remember him holding the rally in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Oh yeah.
He
That's where
literally
kicked off
went
his
to a place
campaign.
where two Jewish kids and a black kid who were fighting for civil rights were massacred by the Klan, which led to the movie Burning Mississippi. And that it was all about showing kind of the racism that was going on in Mississippi. And you decided to hold a campaign rally there too. And then Trump literally did the same thing. Trump held his thing in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Mhm.
And then he even held a campaign rally in Jacksonville, Florida on Axe Handle Sunday.
Yep, I remember that.
So I mean, he was clear, and then he
look,
had the one at Tulsa.
Let's be honest, Trump didn't have anything to do with that. Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon, all those guys, they put that. Yeah. Trump is a green racist.
Yeah.
Trump doesn't give a fuck what color you are. If you don't have money, you're a piece of shit. If you have money, you can hang out.
Yeah. And well, if you have money and you're cool with me.
Yeah. And that's not to say like Trump's dad was a racist. 100%. Trump's dad was a huge racist. But I think
fair housing law in the 1970s.
But I think that by the time fucking Donnie Johns is installing solid gold shitters in Trump Tower, like he's realized that there's a level that you get at where the only thing that matters is who's gonna win big bank, little bank if you decide to play it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Because Trump, he one of the first people that he's on record for like getting sued and shorting out were Russian contractors. And it's because they were immigrants. He's like, you can't take me to court, fuck you. So he's just always been the wealthy guy who's going to take advantage of who he can. And if you got money, I'll rock with you. That's the reason why. And people are like, oh, well, how Trump was cool with rappers. It wasn't that he was necessarily cool with rappers. Is rappers would be like, because Trump was a symbol of money, of being wealthy, they would throw him in his lines to be like, I'm balling like Trump. And because he kept hearing his name thrown around so much, yeah, okay, I'll shake a couple of hands and get cool in certain communities. But Trump was never like, oh, well, he has this like great relationship with the black community. He only cared about the people in his circles.
Nobody was.
It's all a facade. And the same goes with Biden. They like to parade all these super lefties that Biden is for black folks.
Biden is
you hear his damn gaffes and remarks, and he's racist as fuck himself.
This is a swamp Yankee fucking family. They're a bunch of goddamn swamp Yankees, dude. They are white trash to hell and gone.
Yeah.
The whole family. Everybody's fucking everybody. Everybody's cheating on everybody. Everybody's on drugs. The fucking kid's taking pictures of himself at the fucking trap house. At the trap house. What's up with that floor? Shit? There's somebody's fucking kid crawling around in the background. He's sitting there like with the scale out. Look my rocks, motherfucker.
Laying in bed next to a teenager, bro.
The fucking parents.
No one's really talking about that.
Joe and Jill didn't even acknowledge their fucking illegitimate crack baby stripper fucking grandkid until the media shamed them into doing it for 2.5 years after he'd already been the vice president. No, well, the kid was like 5. But I mean, They had to be shamed into recognizing their grandchild. That's how trash they are. And we're just supposed to fucking be like, oh yeah, this is the system produces the best qualified candidate. Anybody who looks at the electoral system as if it's legitimate in 2023 needs to be kicked in the ding ding.
Yeah.
300 million people in this country, and these are the two clowns
And we still
have
get
to
Trump
choose
and
from?
Biden for 2024. Still, that's what they're trying to tell us. The two most capable people on the planet are in their 80s. One of them's got 91 fucking charges. The other one has 9 fucking brain cells, and they're all sniffing kids.
And he shits his pants.
If he even remembers pants. Did you listen to that fucking Alex Jones Tucker Carlson interview? My dude,
pull it up.
at the very end of this conversation, these are guys that have been sued. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're not looking to revitalize more courtroom time. So they're both as careful as they possibly can be when discussing the severe, like, out of pocket, wandering the halls of the White House, jaybird freaking naked. You know, the president of the United States. I'm trying to fucking find this clip. I thought Chris put it up. Let's see. Alex Jones Biden naked. Sure.
And while you're looking for that, shout out to Gregory over here, bless me on the Rockfin side. Much appreciated, sir. And shout out to, I see Laura and Missy are in the building also. Oh, and thank you, Any Word. Yeah, just want to make sure you show some love to my Rockfin.
And Any Word always loves his flat earth shout out. So flat out or shout out to all the flat earthers.
We're gonna have to do one where we go in on the flat earth too and talk about that, because I mean I've been wanting to do a stream on it for a while, the whole flat earth and hollow earth also. Hollow earth is kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, hollow earth is crazy.
All
right, so
oh shit.
I don't see Biden and Trump being the candidates. You see the system, the media going after Biden, and he deserves it, but they were covering it up until now. Now they're covering the laptop. Now they're covering attack on the dog. Now they're covering, all of his senility, all the corruption, the Chinese spies.
Attacking a dog. What a pig he is. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I was told that by Secret Service and by people that, let's just say, work with them. And I'm going to leave it at that. But I actually have a contact for you. I'd like to be able to hear it from them. But when this is over, I'll let you actually hear it from yourself. I think they'll tell you off record. I think they're willing to talk to you. But yeah, he is completely out of his mind. He wanders around for the entire 2.5 years. It's getting worse. Naked in the White House. In the middle of the night, doesn't know who he is. They have to give him a bunch of drugs, a bunch of amphetamines in the morning. Then they've got to drug him at night. Sometimes he's got to, though, he'll like be out for the morning for a while and then comes back out at night for a ball. That's when there's a real problem.
He is on drugs. I have established that. And I know someone who witnessed it. I'm not guessing at this. I know someone personally who witnessed him taking amphetamines. And this was during the 2020 election.
What are your guys' thoughts on Alex Jones?
We've been talking about this though for a while. That's what it was. I remember me and Steve talking about this. Like, dude, they're getting this dude hopped up on shit just for him to get in front of a camera during the primaries.
Yeah.
Actually, gents, I'll be right back. I need to relieve myself real quick.
You need to go to poopy.
So I mean, we all saw, right? We all saw Elon tweet out, "Should I bring back Alex?
Should I bring back? Yeah.
Okay. So they teased that because at the end of that interview, or during that interview, there's basically like a plea. Yeah, it's Jones being like, well, let me back on, whatever is.
I promise I'll be good.
I understand that he's, got forces or whatever, but we all knew, I think, that at some point there was going to be this, when the Twitter files broke and they tried to redefine journalism to make it so that screenshots are, acceptable, and that nobody gets to see primary source material, have access to any of the actual files. It's just take our word for it and stuff like that. And then the thing with Tucker happened. A handful of us were talking about like, oh, it's forming up. This is the new media sphere as it is. It's going to be led by, Tucker Carlson in conjunction with Elon Musk, as this is reliable, truth-telling media, and now they can bring Alex Jones into the fold. Think about how many dupes and rubes you're gonna sucker into thinking that the defense contractor, the legacy media narrative management guy, and by his own admission, someone who has at least been used as controlled opposition in Alex Jones, because he said that on his show a couple of weeks ago.
He admitted it
on AM Wake Up, someone who by his own admission has at least been used as controlled opposition. And if that's all it is, that's bad enough to be in this position with defense contractor guy and legacy media guy. Because if you've been used as controlled opposition, even if you didn't know, and even if you're not actively doing that and just lying through your teeth and hoping people believe you, you've proven that you can be swayed and fooled and used. You're now in a position where you are desperately clinging to your ability to survive, where your fantasy settlement has gone from 1.2 billion or trillion or whatever the fuck they're like, okay, fine, we understand that was all for show, but what we really want from you is $8.5 million every year for 10 years. You are fucking bound to that. We'll destroy you if you don't come up with that nut. So now, however much he's been making, however much he actually has, he's legitimately on the hook for $8.5 million a year for the next 10 years. He's got to pay that money. He just told the world that he'd been used as controlled opposition. 2 weeks later, he's on an interview with Tucker Carlson where fucking all kinds of crazy shit happens, but tucked in there is a direct message to Elon Musk. Bring me back on Twitter. We're taking over the fucking space. And now that's happening.
It gives people like a false sense of freedom of speech.
No, it gives me none, dude. It gives
no.
But yeah,
no, not for you. I'm talking about for Normie Land.
Yeah,
that's the facade going out to Normie Land. Obviously, you and I, and people that can see past through the shit, the charade that Alex Jones is, we can see past through it. But I think it's being used as a tool to give this facade of freedom of speech, while at the same time we have these hearings deeming anti-Zionism equal to anti-Semitism at the same damn time that all this is coming out. Come on, man. So it's a ruse to further that illusion that we have freedom of speech.
Because is Elon bringing any of the pro-Palestinian accounts that have been fucking nuked off of Twitter back? No, but he is bringing someone on who will never talk bad about Zionism.
Yeah.
Well, and this, I think this is where I feel like the Zionists get themselves into a little bit of trouble when they go so overkill with you must do this, and then it becomes like, damn, how much leverage and power do you have to make a person do all of this shit for the slightest like step out of line? And you saw that with Kyrie, just like me and Chris talked about, and shout out to Chris who was in here earlier. You're going to see Kyrie Irving be dropped from Dallas. Watch, or traded, because if you see who just bought it, you know it ain't long before he's off that team.
Yeah, he's gone.
And so then you look at also, like I look at even Kanye or Ye, as he's controlled opposition also. And what you have with Elon, when you literally make this dude go to all the lengths that you made him go to, you made him go literally sit down with everybody like Kyrie. I mean, and it's kind of the same thing that Nick Cannon had to do, Deshaun Jackson had to do. You can make the world's richest man, air quotes richest man have to go and basically be sat down and told, no. You think you're running shit, you're not the real boss. And that's the thing with Elon. Elon on paper is the richest man. Well, on the paper that they show, they don't really show you who the real richest people are, because when they'll tell you,
living in Saudi Arabia, bro,
they're not even the richest. And this is how you know that they're not the richest. If they were the richest, they wouldn't have the U.S. coming in their different countries and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If the Arabs were the ones who are really running shit, then there would be no way that the U.S. would be able to just send carriers and put troops on the ground in Syria and Yemen and all these places.
But you got people in Switzerland whose last name can be traced back to the Orsini family, and knocking on a couple of the right doors.
I mean, they just recently, one of the wealthy families just admitted that, yeah, okay, all right, we do have at least $1 trillion. Where for the longest they've been like, oh, no, these other people have way more money than us. But you can't tell, like, there's no way you can tell me that somebody literally was at the top of the game, had the most amount of money, or groups of families had the most amount of money, and then they just kind of go off the radar. It's no reports of them ever losing that money, but somehow they're not the wealthiest anymore. I mean, any person with common sense knows that when you put money into banks, especially very, very large sums of money, your money is growing. The interest on your money is growing faster than you can spend it most of the time. So you can't tell me that families have had, hundreds of billions of dollars sitting in the bank for centuries and they're not wealthier. You're telling me that, oh yeah, these handful of Arabs who found some oil, that they're actually the richest ones? No. No. And what blows my mind is how many people who fall for that. You're telling me that, because we do know that whether we even name a name to who owns these private Federal Reserve or these central banks, there is somebody, when it gets down to it, who owns these central banks, because they're not owned by governments. So that means there are private people who own these central banks around the world. And you don't get to know how much money's in them. You don't get to audit them, and you don't get to know how much money these people have.
They are owned by the Rothschilds.
Well, that's just one of them. That's just one of the ultra wealthy families.
Folks, I gotta bounce, man. It's like, holy shit! It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning out here, bro.
Oh wow.
Yeah, already.
But thank you so much, Marcus. Thank you, Steve.
I appreciate
hopefully
it,
I get you guys on next weekend so we can catch them fights. Thanks for having me.
All right,
yeah, dude. I'm stoked for that fight.
Love,
I'm stoked for that whole card. That whole card is ridiculous.
Hell yeah.
All right, brother.
All righty, brother. We'll catch you later. But yeah, I mean, when I started like really tracing some of this stuff, like the fact that one family literally had all of the weapons contracts from the Civil War all the way up to, actually not, let me scratch that, not the Civil War, from the American Revolutionary War all the way up to Vietnam, that one family owned all those contracts, and you're telling me like they're not rolling in dough? No, miss me with that.
No, they invested in some bad hotels in the 80s, and it just,
I mean, you could tell me one of those families lost all their money, and then one of them is recorded in history of losing a ton of the Vanderbilts. They're known that they lost a shitload of money, but they're also known to take horrible investments and spend, like a drunken sailor.
Yeah.
But you can't tell me, okay, out of these 100 top, wealthy families that go back to the early 1900s, that they all lost all their money.
No, there were like a handful of railroad barons that actually did go like tits up. There were
Yeah.
what the Carnegie Mellon family, but there were people walking around talking like they were broke, and there's still fucking 500,000 buildings named after them, and they have national security endowments going. But like, come on, dude, no, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, the Vanderbilts were notoriously retarded.
Yeah. And what happened typically is when you have these like uber wealthy people supposedly lose all that money, only thing happened is big bank take little bank. Only thing has happened is that money just went to another one of those ultra wealthy people. And just like you have with like the telecommunications companies where they're all getting gobbled up and get monopolized into a handful of people, that's the same thing which happened to these companies. They just got monopolized. It's
Yeah.
no different than what you see in China with like Tencent, how Tencent owns damn near everything. But they just hide it better here.
Well, I mean, the labyrinth that was built in terms of the financial system and the tax code, it's ridiculous. It is. And if you're on the top end, well, congratulations, because it was designed for you.
Yeah.
Like everything in the tax code is basically allowing people. It's a series of loopholes. It's like 800 million pages long.
Yeah.
With
And those
corresponding punishments for people who don't fit the economic bar to get those loopholes.
And those loopholes are so bad that like you don't only like make more money. I mean, you don't only get exemptions from taxes. These people get money back. Like I remember when I found out that like I can't remember what year it was, but like GE got like $700 billion back in tax. I was like, what? How the hell are they getting money back in taxes? And I can't remember if it was millions or billions. It might either way, they got tons and tons and tons of money. And there's a lot of people where that's what's happening to them. They're not only not paying taxes, they're literally getting more and more and more money. And how many of these top conglomerates literally pay zero in taxes? That's the reason why you have Vanguards and BlackRocks.
Mm-hmm.
And then that money they all learned from I'm trying to remember what was his name, Standard Oil.
Rockefeller.
Yeah. They all learned from Rockefeller how to diversify. And that's all he did was diversify the hell out of everything.
Well, they hit him with antitrust suits, right? That was the whole thing. And he didn't become a billionaire until he had to demonopolize.
Mm-hmm.
That whole scam actually allowed for the Rockefellers to effectively take over the education system, the pharmaceutical system, the oil and fucking gas, like all aspects of industry.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they had him. He could have just been an oil baron.
Yeah.
They had him locked in.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, no, we can't do that. Well, let's change it so that now I can just be on the board of hundreds of companies.
That's like when I found out, like when I used to be like, well, you know what? How do we get back at these people? We're just gonna boycott them. I'm gonna boycott the Koch brothers. And then years later, I realized how many different corporations and stuff which the Koch brothers actually own, and I'm like, it's like impossible to boycott the Koch brothers. Like literally impossible. Like there's stuff that you don't even know of that's made with Koch brothers products.
Yeah.
So many things you don't even realize. Like a lot of different plastics. In order for them to make those plastics, they had to use certain types of oil that they got from the Koch brothers.
Yep.
I mean, Kimberly Clark was like another one. Like, if you go to like most public places and you use toilet paper or you use hand soap or you use, I mean, are you gonna go everywhere you go and carry soap and paper towels and toilet paper with you? No, I don't think you're gonna do that.
Right. You gonna make your own paper towels?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's almost what it comes down to.
And that's just like one aspect of what they do. Just like I remember looking into like the whole tobacco and I would go into even the medicinal marijuana stuff. How much of that is owned by the Reynolds family?
Yeah.
I mean, Reynolds basically, like damn near every tobacco product you can think of in the US is owned by the Reynolds. And then also
the fuck ton of land, dude. Oh, fuck ton of land.
Well, and the aluminums and plastics too. Because a lot of people just think like the plastic wrap. No, like compressed aluminum that like that you use in most like commercial businesses. Yeah, that compressed aluminum that they're getting from like them through a subsidiary where they've sold the company to like a cousin who's under a different name, and it's the same shit. It's just like when you find out like was it Obama is like third cousin to Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
It's a big club. It is. It is.
Well, remember, I talked with Dr. Shiva earlier, and he was talking about like the Kennedys, and like, I mean, the Kennedys go back to the O'Connell Fionn, like that was a minor royal family in Ireland. And there's so many, and these people who have owned this stuff for, I mean, we can easily say before this country was even like, when it was still a concept and idea, these guys who were coming over here, they already, many of them had substantial wealth. So that's the reason why people would think, oh, well, we could just take the system down and we're going to come with our demands. And they don't give a shit about your demands. What are you talking about?
Right? That you're taking your demands to Rome.
Yeah. Literally going to a king or a Caesar and telling him what you want.
And it's, I mean, as far as like the basic, you know, how the predator class governs, it's just an extension of the fucking Roman Empire.
Without a doubt.
We were talking in the Telegram chat last night, but like, because there's a whole lot of Prussian overlap, not Russian, but Prussian overlap. And I understand that at the root of that is a non-Catholic entity, but before that, that's where the Pope split was, and it's still fucking 100% like their Prussians claim to be like offshoots from the Templars and shit like that, and it all goes back to the fucking extension of the Roman Empire.
Oh yeah, all of this stuff goes back to that, but that's the reason why the history gets all murky. Like, how many people who think of the Roman Empire as this one continuous, empire, when there was basically like 3 iterations of the Roman Empire, and the last faction of it is the one which held on and it's still, you know, it's separated into the modern states of Europe and then continued into what it is now. I mean, and all by extension, all of the territories, i.e., Canada, US, New Zealand, all these places outside of the US, and you could even say a lot of the Caribbean too for a long period of time. All of those were extensions until they kind of lost those territories, and only because they were so far away from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, it's mind-boggling when you really dig into this stuff. I was gonna ask you because somebody told me to ask earlier, and now I remember. I had Dr. Shiva on earlier, and what was some of your thoughts on, I guess, how your interview went?
I mean, he's entertaining.
Mhm.
I I think what he does with the whole like systems approach thing is cool. I really do. I love that breakdown that he does on the swarm. I like that he sees through a little bit more of the shit than a lot of people, but at the end of it, I also think that he's still like a part of that elite class, and that he's really bitter that they never let him in the big club in the first place, and now you know, he's like outside of the door to the party kicking the shit out of the door and screaming horrible things about everybody inside while still saying, but I want to get inside.
I mean, I could see that analysis.
And so, you know, I mean, he's a wildly entertaining figure in this
Yeah.
fucking cartoon world, and I'm glad we had him on the show, you
Mhm.
know. But he's not running for president, so you know, I
Yeah.
mean, it's, you know, so he's there to make noise, so that's that's usually what you get out of the conversation, because he's not coming there to do a presentation, a 20-minute swarm presentation, really. You know, he's there to fucking sell himself and his ideas and stuff like that. Some of them are fucking crazy. Some of them are right on.
Yeah, I mean, I heard I heard this one thing, and I guess I'll just go ahead and say that it kind of put me a little off when I was kind of hearing some of the Christ consciousness kind of stuff talked about. You know, I'm like, yeah, that gets into some of the theosophy stuff, and
Mhm.
you know, that's a lot of the stuff which goes into belief systems of people like Oprah Winfrey and Marianne Williamson, and that whole elite club. That's some of their belief systems. And I mean, I guess I can't expect for you not to be so much around those people and not have taken away some of it, and some of it still have some residue. It's kind of like when I deal with some people who they are people of faith, but they still got a lot of the residue of the church left on them, you
Mhm.
know, and it's like
Yeah.
you gotta flush it all out first, and then you can start anew. And if you don't, you end up kind of being a little off kilter because you still got some of those things where you're gonna have to go back to scratch eventually. It's kind of, well, you know, as a builder, if you build some imperfections into the foundation and you just start building the damn house, what happens? Eventually, you're gonna have to go back and fix that fucking foundation. You got to tear the whole house back down to get to that foundation and redo it, especially if you never do it right the first time.
Yeah. 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 And look, I mean, it's at least where the Marianne Williams and Oprah Winfrey people come into play. Like they blended, or I guess they've taken theosophy and ran with, and that's what effective altruism is now. But as you get more of that circle, uh, modifying and honing modern day Blavatsky fucking drivel, um, with his like disconnected as everyone is, with as divided as everyone is, people are gonna go for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's never not from Marianne Williamson's mouth, But if it was The Rock saying it instead of Oprah, it'd be totally different. So when are they going to spring The Rock on everybody?
I honestly think it's going to be a matter of time before you start seeing, because they're like, okay, well, we realize, and what it is when it comes to the elites, they're always a couple of steps behind because they're so far away from everything that it takes them a while to be able to catch up to. Oh, wait a minute, you guys aren't rocking with Oprah anymore? Oh shit, let's get a new spokesperson out there. And so, I mean, I always use the analogy of kind of like an aircraft carrier. If an aircraft carrier has to like stop, it literally takes an aircraft carrier 2 miles to stop. And that's the same thing with these elites when they're that far up and this much power. It takes so much to get to them before they realize, oh shit, the narrative changed, that it leaves them so many steps behind in trying to change and craft a new narrative, because by the time they came around to the new one, everybody's already switched to the next one.
You
And
can see it. You can see it happen with the Ukraine war was a perfect example of this, because there were people on the ground debunking shit in real time, but because of the way that even online legacy media has to wait for talking points, and nobody's an honest actor in it, so they've got to coordinate their bullshit too.
Mhm.
And that just, I mean, the whole war could have gone totally different with Nord Stream. It could have gone totally different with the bombing of the Crimean Bridge. It could have gone totally different. There were a couple of bombs that landed in Poland and apparently killed 2 people. And, Zelensky, everyone from Zelensky to Jack Posobiec was like, it's World War III.
Well, it's because World War III is what's wanted. Now,
Yeah.
I don't think that the idiots who are on TV who are screaming for certain things realize that that's what's going to happen. But people like Zelensky definitely knew and wanted World War III. He's like, hey, the shit's gonna go. I mean, this shit's going up in flames over here. Why the fuck not? If it's that mindset of, well, if I'm going down, well, who cares if everybody else goes down with me? But like the Lindsey Grahams and the Nikki Haley's of the world, I think that they bought into American exceptionalism so much that they really think, oh, we can fight Iran and it's just going to be the same as Iraq. And maybe 20 years ago, that might have been the case. But maybe you might even have to go back further than that. But you put boots on the ground, or a war breaks out where Iran is actually involved, you're going to be fighting the whole entire Middle East at that point.
And Russia, and China, and India.
Yeah, well, I'm still wondering about India. I'm trying to figure out where India is going to land on it, because India sides more with Israel than anything. And so I think India, now, if it's just the US involved in something like that, and Israel kind of stays on the sidelines, then I think India might switch over with Russia and China, but they're playing both sides of the fence. I think
Israel's got to pivot to the BRICS countries at the end of this.
But I don't think that the BRICS countries want them. That's the problem.
Well, they do business with all of them. They do business with all of them.
Well, but it's the same thing of, like, I always say, it's like mobsters. Mobsters do business with each other and they don't necessarily like each other. But if it gets to a point where, okay, now we got to like really be like tied to the hip with you, that's a little too much partnership, that I don't think that they're ready to go down that road, because at that same point, then Israel would have to completely betray the rest of the West.
Yeah. But they've used up the rest of the West. They really have, especially now in terms of their dwindling goodwill, because there's always going to be the element of the West that is under complete and total Zionist control, right?
Well, yeah.
But they're losing this thing.
Well, I think that you got here's the thing. And when you brought up Netanyahu and you talked about how he's more of an atheist, he's just a flat out Zionist, it's entirely correct. But his political life depends on the Likud party right now, and they are the most ideological that you have. And I really believe in their heart of hearts that they believe God is completely with us right now. So it doesn't matter what the hell we do, they're not going to be able to come against them, which I feel like is a very, very bad calculation that they've come to, almost possible suicidal calculation that they might come to, because it can lead them into a situation that, okay, and I would like to ask the Zionists, so what happens? What if God is not with you? What if everything you've thought has been wrong? Did you ever factor in the possibility that could be the end of not only you, but everybody in Israel? You guys could literally get wiped off the map. Talking about what the whole 7 million people there gone. And Iran has the ability to do that. Turkey has the ability to do that. I mean, Russia definitely does if they get pissed off enough. And they're already like, yo, we don't like what you guys are doing over there. And then plus the kind of friction that's been going on with how they've been treating Christians has been really getting under a lot of the Russians, skin, because now you have the more ultra, well, not ultra, but the Orthodox Zionists who have just been like, they feel like nothing can stop them right now. They don't give a damn about losing the narrative, and they're just going to push to their objectives. And this is what I think will be the breaking point for even the Arab countries who are kind of like, we're going to sit on the sidelines. If it does get to a situation where they push all the Palestinians out and they push them into Arab countries, the next step, and I've told people this, the next step is they will use that as justification to attack those countries next, because the book of Genesis in the Torah and in the what is it called? Why am I blanking on that right now? The Talmud. It literally says from the river, from the Nile River to the Euphrates. Well, to anybody who understands the geography of that, that means literally they're going to take, they believe that part of Egypt is their land. They believe Lebanon is their land. Syria is their land. Part of Turkey is their land. All of Saudi Arabia. And we're talking about part of Iran also, even in a little corner of Iraq. So basically that's putting them at odds and literally taking most of the Middle East into their custody as land. And I think the moment that any of these neighboring countries, if they take Palestinians in, they're going to use that as justification, any attack that they have. Oh, see, look, Hamas is over there, so now we got a bomb in Egypt.
And the craziest thing about all of this is that if there are what you would consider the Middle Eastern ethnically Jews, predominantly their homeland or any land that they would have any historical right of claim to is all in Iraq.
I'm just saying I already see where this is going, and I know it's all, and here's the thing where people lose the narrative. They pay attention to, oh, well, this happened on October 7th, or this happened in the first Intifada, and they focus on all of these different integral steps. Like I said before, if you know where somebody's going, you can get there at the end of it. And you go back to Zionism all the way back to Winston Churchill. The plan all the way back to Winston Churchill was taking all of the land and taken into Lebanon and Syria and all these other areas we're talking about. This has always been the plan. Always been the plan. And we're not talking about only 100 years. We're talking about like 130, 140, 150 years. This has been the plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all they've done is run cover or pretend it's not the plan. While everybody else is bought into the bullshit.
And what's even crazier is you'll get, members of the Jewish community, whether they're in Israel or Brooklyn or where the fuck ever, that will flat out tell you, oh no, that thing that's the plan, the total expansion of the Zionist. Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, that's what we want to do. And people are like, yeah, I don't pay attention to that. Like when you quote, that's the most dangerous thing about quoting people on the inside of it, is that a lot of these guys are very proud of what they're doing, and they're more than happy to admit what they're doing. And as soon as I quote them, then there's a problem. It's not a problem when they say it, it's a problem when I notice.
Yep.
Well, that seems odd.
Well, what they're gonna say is you're taking their words out of context, or they're twisting around, or you don't completely understand, or this is what I've learned dealing with Zionists. They're always going to deflect. They're always going to say, well, you don't understand this or understand that, or well, no, the translation is different. And so, yeah, this word, it could mean this and that. And they play these different
but I'm reading out legal of the games. Same book, and I know who the Amaleks are. So, what are we really doing here?
Yeah, Hamza says here, Saudi will gift their land to Israel. Well, see, here's the thing: people don't give something without getting something in return. If you gift your land and all the oil, what are you getting in return? Getting slaughtered? I mean, that doesn't logically even make any sense. I mean, these other countries are fine with, okay, I don't want to stick my neck out for the Palestinians. That's one thing. I don't want to stick my neck out for Jordan. But when it comes to yourself, you're not about to just give away your trillions of dollars with the oil money and all that freely.
There's another possibility. And if you recall the original conversations about the location for the Jewish state back in the day, number one, then it got moved down to number 3, and then back up to number 2 before they settled to occupy Palestine, was Patagonia. Javier Milei just got elected president of Argentina. Javier Milei just converted to Judaism. Javier Milei is a rabid Zionist. The other possibility is that the Israeli experiment in occupied Palestine does fall apart, but their savior grants them their Jewish homeland in Patagonia, which gives the Zionist entity all of those mining rights in Antarctica. And then they're like, hey, look, no, we're not gonna fuck Arabs, dude. No, we're over here now. It's all right. It's okay.
Yeah. Hamza was saying the royal family will get money and bitches. They literally have trillions of dollars. What? I mean, you don't think they already have money and bitches? I mean, come on now.
Like, well, it might be more money and more bitches. I gotta hop off, man.
Yeah. We're at 3, so we went kind of long enough.
Heck yeah.
Got in all the points we needed to, and appreciation for everybody who's hopped in here. I love when we're able to take these deep dives. Oh, before you go, give me a breakdown on the 4 GOP jagoffs that are left, and what order do you think they're going to drop out before Trump takes over?
Nikki Haley's got to be done. She's got to be done. Vivek embarrassed the hell out of her so bad the other night. I can't see her sticking it, and there's zero reason for Chris Christie to be in the race. I really, I think at this point, if we're whittling down the JV team, yeah, in order of disappearance, Nikki Haley's got to go. Christie will be next. Vivek and DeSantis will battle it out until the bitter, 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 bitter end. And all of this is happening while the Democrats are like, we're not doing primaries anymore. The fuck, politics in general. We're just here to rule. By the way, we're still trying to lock up our main political opponent. That's all of this is happening under the shadow of Donald Trump. But I don't know, man. Honestly, I think if there's anybody in the GOP that they'll listen to at this point, it will be Vivek. I think he's the only person that's been there to like show up for a debate, do anything noteworthy, or the only clips anybody's playing from that thing are Vivek going, I want you to name the 3 provinces that you want to fucking bother. You want to send kids to die in.
I think he's the most skilled grifter up there. So the reason why I think DeSantis is going first. The reason why I think DeSantis is going to go first is the donors have already left him, and he only took a handful of donors. They switched over to Haley. Haley's going to get a poor showing when the votes actually come out in Iowa, and that's going to make her kind of wobble. She might go after that, but if she does bad in South Carolina, she's definitely Christie's going to be after definitely. I would say Iowa. You might see Christie go and DeSantis, and you might see Nikki hang for a little bit longer until she starts getting trounced by Vivek, and then once Trump is kind of freed up from all this stuff, Vivek's gonna drop right out and try to try his best to try to be Trump's VP.
Man, they can't put Nikki Haley back on a debate stage again.
She's destroyed.
Whoever's running that campaign, whoever's behind her money, all the fucking they all got flat the fuck out embarrassed the other night.
Yep. And there's only one person who Trump would even look at as, okay, I can rock with him. The neocons, they're done. They're not going anywhere in the new Republican Party. So Nikki Haley, you're done. Chris Christie, you're done. So and the DeSantis, they pulled the funding away from him. So I don't know. DeSantis could hang a little longer because Nikki Haley, they could be switching the money back over. But when it comes down to it, if you put Vivek and DeSantis on a stage together, he's going to destroy DeSantis. Yeah. Because DeSantis got washed by Newsom. And you got Hannity, and you got Hannity, who's extremely biased towards DeSantis, and he couldn't beat Newsom. So you're going to put him on an even playing field. Vivek is going to destroy DeSantis one-on-one.
Yeah, and it's just because Vivek is playing a different game. He's actually he knows what the debates are. And it's not that DeSantis doesn't, but DeSantis is still trying to play it like it's fucking 2004.
Because he's really a 2004 Rhino type Republican who's trying to pretend he's Trump-like.
Yeah,
and he's gonna get exposed. But yeah, that's all I had, brother. Anything you want to leave with the audience before we take off?
Slow news day tomorrow. We have a fantastic week on AM Wake Up. All female guests on AM Wake Up this week. Which is interesting. I have a show on freeworld.fm on Fridays now called The White Phillip Show. Huge shouts to Billy Ray Valentine, Tony Arterburn for creating the station and putting me on. But yeah, that's it. That's it. If you can next Saturday, dude, fucking UFC with brother
Yeah,
Weezy.
yeah, Wheezy was telling me, and I was like, I might do that. I might, we probably have to reschedule this show for probably have to reschedule it for Sunday because we'd be on at the same time. But I'm like, I'll talk with Chris and think about it because we're gonna do a big thing on Bolsheviks.
Okay.
So yeah, that's why I loved you already know. That's why I loved when you went in and started talking about, Stalin and Trotsky and all those guys.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of choice quotes that explain exactly what Bolshevism and communism were to those folks. Yeah. Wow.
Communism,
Marcus, you rock, my
Bolshevism,
friend.
socialism, yeah, all that all together.
Yep.
All righty, my man.
All right, bro.
Thank you for joining, and thank you all for joining us. This has been the Political Matrix. I, of course, am your host, Marcus Young Morpheus Cage, here with my brother Steve from AM Waking, Mr. Steve Poikinen, and shout out to Wheezy. Thank you for stopping through, and hopefully it will not be his last. Y'all have a good night. Y'all be safe.